is CoyoteCody. So, welcome in, everybody. Thank you, Cody, for joining us for this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about 4.8 and all the amazing things going on around it. Yes, that was sarcasm. But, everybody, I want you to give a big thank you. And if you haven't followed Cody yet, you really should. You're kind of a dick if you haven't. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. But you should.
Yeah, how dare you not?
Exactly. Like, what the hell, man? Guys,
Yeah.
ladies. But, anyways. So, welcome in, everybody. You all know who Cody is, so unless you want to reintroduce yourself, I think maybe we can just start
Uh,
into the shenanigans.
yeah, I'm Coyote Cody. I'm your late night, I don't know, FPS streamer is what I call myself, but I play all genres anyways. I live on the West Coast, and after work, as I work swing shift, I hop on and I stream between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can catch me, and I am a variety streamer, I would say. So, yeah, if
He
you're
does a
interested in that, and
variety of
then
different Star Citizen things. Okay.
yes, exactly. I explore all gameplay loops. I'm somebody that's constantly looking for new and fun experiences, and I am focused around community and creating a difference in the world. So we focus on charities, mainly mental health and autism, on my channel. So currently we are running. If you don't mind, I'm gonna advertise myself here a little bit, but I am running a charity event through all the month of June here coming up for Batir Australia. They work with the youth down in Australia, going to schools and college campuses to just spread the good word of mental health, provide services, and get rid of the stigma around mental health, and you know, just advocate for people to open up and search the help that they search out the help that they may need.
That's a very noble cause. And yeah, I hope that goes well. And again, everybody, we'll put links up to that stuff. If you want to send that to me, Cody, I'll drop links
Yeah.
and then we can put them in the Discord too. All right. 4.8, ladies and gents. It came out. It's been out for what now? 10 days, something like that. Came out on a Thursday, Sunday. So yeah, it's been 11 days since
The
it's out.
Yeah, it's coming on the 13th, I believe, when like
13th.
the patch went live.
Yeah, it's the 24th, or it's actually dropped on the 14th because they never got it up on the 13th.
Yes.
That's what she said. But that's a little frustrating that we had to wait an extra day because I mean I did an entire stream of just sitting here waiting for the
Mm-hmm.
patch to drop. It was a long wait. Uh, so yeah, hopefully in the future they're a little bit better at that. But there was a lot of speculation around why 4.8 was taking so long to come out, and a couple things that came up was people were talking about the duping. They were trying to make sure the duping was not a thing, and then I think the other rumor I heard was they were trying to fix certain things with the ironclad.
Yeah.
Um, what's up, bud? So 4.8 came out. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy when I tell people that it was a mess. It was a big ol' buggy mess, and it still is to a certain extent. And since it's been released, we've had a hotfix, one hotfix, and we've had a server maintenance. But before we go into the negative, let's talk about what 4.8 actually brought us. 4.8, the biggest selling point on 4.8 was the tactical strike groups, which, if you don't know what that is it's a contract mission, whatever you want to call it. It's an in-game event that is made for larger groups, and the idea is you go in, there's a space station, you're assaulting essentially, and there are big baddies defending it, and there are a few steps to completing the contract, but you kind of need to go in with a bigger fleet in order to deal with this enemy fleet, which is a Vandal fleet, I believe. Um, and you even get to fight a Vandal. Is it a? I think it's a destroyer, not a mothership. But I could be wrong on that. So if anybody knows, make sure to drop that in
Is
the
it
chat. I
The
think it's
Mauler
the
that
Mauler.
shows up.
I think it's a
Yeah.
destroyer technically, and not a mothership. Or sorry, what they call the kingship. That's the one you see in the Squadron 42.
Yeah, it's not quite the kingship, but I think it's kind of on. I don't know. Based off of what I saw today, it might be what the heck is like a battleship, like the Odin is supposed to be.
Battle cruiser. I'll have to go double check that. But
Yeah.
essentially, the main point is you're going in as a group to fight a large group of enemies, and there's a lot of things to do. And the coolest thing they added to that is the trench run. I think, even though I haven't been able to do it yet,
Hmm.
there are some Star Wars elements they've added to it to make it pretty interesting. So that was the big selling point on 4.8. The other thing that was huge that came out in 4.8 or happened in 4.8 is we had a major wipe. We wiped all inventory for every player except for the items you paid for with real money in the store. And even some people had issues with those things showing up. But everybody's kind of started from, well, relative zero because not everybody's on the same foot when you start. Some people have bought tens of $1,000s worth of ships, others have just a starter. But the idea is everybody starts fresh. You have the rep was wiped as well, which is something they hadn't done since 4.0. And you have to go back through, get your starter contracts, start grinding up money, start getting a little bit of rep, and yeah, it's honestly for me personally the funnest part of Star Citizen is kind of right after a wipe. But I felt the same way in Tarkov. A lot of people hate wipes. I actually enjoyed them because for a brief amount of time, people are almost on the same footing. So it makes for a bit more of an even playing field. But besides the wipe, we also had a bunch of new ships come in, and those were all centered around DefenseCon, which typically at this time of year we would have Invictus, but they gave us some lore reason that for some reason this year Invictus was happening in the Sol system. If you are uneducated, the Sol system is where you and I live right now. This is where planet Earth is situated in the Sol system. Our sun is called Sol. So Invictus went to Sol. We're not allowed to go because we probably won't get the Sol system for another 20 years. And then they decided to replace that with DefenseCon, which typically comes after Invictus. They basically made DefenseCon the Invictus where other manufacturers showed up because typically DefenseCon was only Drake because nobody invites Drake to the party, ever. They are the black sheep. And it was interesting. I gotta admit, I only went to check out the showroom floor on the first day. After that, didn't care anymore because the game was in a despicable state, so not interested in their marketing around ships that add nothing and change nothing. And unfortunately, came out very, very bugged. But let's go through the list of ships that actually came out in game, and then we'll talk about the elephant in the room, quite literally, which we now know will come out later down the line. So we got the Starlight, which is a small refueler from Misk, correct? We
Hmm.
got the M80, which is a heavy fighter, and the first real fighter we've seen from Origin. A lot of people are liking that one. Then we saw the Ironclad, which has since been dubbed the Iron Chud, the Iron Dud, and many other fun names because it doesn't really work. Then we also got the what was the other one? We got Ironclad Assault and the
Pitbull.
Ironclad and the Pitbull. Correct. Sorry, I forgot about the
Hmm.
Pitbull. The Pitbull is a small snub fighter from Drake with a lot of weapons on it, and yeah,
A,
it's
a big engine. It's basically an engine with a cockpit or a seat and a ton of weapons on
it's
it.
CIG's version of the Muke. And if you don't know what the Muke is, you need to
Get
go visit.
over. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
You need to go visit Cody, Devils, or Sweaty. Um,
Oh, it originated with Sweat. It's Sweat's idea. So.
what's it? I mean, I know of
Hmm.
his redeem channel redeem for the
Yeah.
Muke. which is funny. And if you ever go check out his stream, which you should, he's a very, very nice human being. Type in exclamation point Muke, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a lot of fun. But essentially, it was
Mhm.
just a ship with too many weapons and an engine. It's a smaller Drake Herald with more weapons, essentially. The and then I think that's all of it, right? For the ships that actually were released.
Yeah, that sounds about right for all the new stuff. Unless there's something I'm forgetting, but I don't think there is. I mean, there's still yet, I think, something to be announced, but I don't know for sure.
Hmm. So besides the possibility of some surprise ship coming out here soon again, then we got our first concept sale, also known as JPEG, that people
Mm-hmm.
can buy for the first time since they announced. What was the last one they announced that was a JPEG? Mm,
I don't know.
well, I think technically the
I wish
last
I
one they
knew.
announced that was a JPEG might have been the Polaris, but that's since come out in game. I'm
Yeah.
actually spacing on the latest concept ship they released, but this new one, all right, it's
Well,
well, no, the
they spent
Apollo
a.
was in concept for a long time. Sorry, the was sorry. What were you saying, Cody?
Oh, I was gonna say they spent a lot of time on that ship today, showing it being modeled and everything. So.
Yeah, zero interest in that video. I'm not going to go support that when their game doesn't work. Um, so we got the Odin. All right, they have announced there will be a battle cruiser in game called the Odin from Aegis Anvil. Aegis. I'll have to go double check
uh,
that.
I think it's an anvil.
Anvil. I think
Or
that
maybe
makes
it is
sense.
Aegis. It is Aegis because it was just Aegis Day, and it was, or no, today's Anvil Day, so it is Anvil because it showed up today in the
Anvil.
store.
It is. It is Anvil.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the Anvil Odin. It's our first JPEG to be sold in a long time. Why is this a big deal? Well, besides the fact that it's a battle cruiser that's supposed to have a crew of 33 to 65, which is actually a smaller max crew than the Javelin, fun fact, but it's supposed to be bigger than the Javelin, so I expect there to be some modifications made to the Javelin crew size, or not. Also, typical CIG to not pay attention to old ships. But the kicker, you see, the kicker was it is before we knew what the price was, the only way you could have access to the possibility of spending your money on this ship is to write CAG a letter stating your intent with the Odin. Now, there's been a lot of funny stuff going around the internet. Uh, I've seen some interesting submissions that were not very serious at all, but
Mm-hmm.
were accepted nonetheless, which has then sparked the conversation of is CIG actually going through the letters or are they just using an AI? With CIG's
I
track record, I'm going to go for the latter. Sorry.
Yeah, based on the submissions that I saw, one being a complete letter of how the person doesn't want the Odin, is not going to buy the Odin,
That's
and they
still
got access into it. Yeah, like, uh, yeah, I'm gonna go with the latter on that. I think they used AI, or it was just kind of a lottery thing, based off of certain metrics of, you know.
it was interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
So you had to apply essentially for the right to potentially be able to buy the ship. And that was before we knew what the price was. Now we know what the price was, and everybody hold on to your butts. For it to be bought, War Bond is wait is War so there's two prices. There's
Orbon's new money, and it's cheaper.
so the War Bond, thank you, is
Mhm.
5,000 doll hairs USD, and the essentially the store credit version is 5,900 doll hairs USD. Now, this has also sparked other conversations around the ship, such as does this make it truly pay to win? Is this too much? How is anyone going to man this ship? Unless they have a large group. A lot of questions, and honestly, those questions have already been floating around, like the one on how to man a ship with a large group around the Javelin, or even the Idris, which is now in game, by the way. The Idris is a crew of up to, I want to say, 30 something. I may be wrong on that. I'll have to go double check, but essentially, it's not as big of a crew as the Odin or the Javelin, or even I'm sure the Kraken, which we don't know. I don't think I can't remember what the crew size on the Kraken is, but anywho, the point being that this ship coming in, a lot of people are worried it's going to completely throw off the balance in the verse, which is barely balanced to begin with right now. But let's be honest with ourselves, we don't really have to worry about the Odin too much right now. Why is that? Well, because it's probably not going to be in game for another 2 to 3 years. The only way logically you can get that ship to work in this verse is to have dynamic server meshing, which we don't have right now. And the reason why I say that is, let's say, and this applies to the Javelin as well, let's say you have one fully manned Javelin or one fully manned, or let's say you have both. You have a fully manned Javelin and you have a fully manned Odin on a server. Well, that right there kills all the room in a server. Like, you actually would probably go over the server limit. And for people who are going, but the Shards has 700, the Shard has 700 places, but each individual server that is connected to that Shard through static server meshing has about 100 people per server. Maybe a little less. I think they've toned it down to less and increased the servers. But anyways, the point being, one of those ships fills up a server essentially, so you have to have dynamics meshing in order to make that work. And we don't have that. We don't even have a date on that. So that's the Odin. But okay, besides that, what other new content did we get? Well, with the Starlight, that's the one I forgot. The Starlight. No, did I mention it? Anyways, I forget. The Starlight was also a new
I believe
ship.
you did.
I did mention it, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a refueling ship. So what happened, the only ship that actually had any kind of use or reason to buy was the Starlight, because with it we got new refueling gameplay, which was sort of in the game for years but never worked. So now we have this Starlight, which is a small refueling ship, but it's not like it added anything new, because like we've already had the Starfarer, which is a refueling ship that's been in the game for quite a while. So that was some of the new content we got as well. I can't think of anything else noteworthy to mention, but I may be forgetting something.
You have the ability to take ships, like NPC ships, and store them in your hangar.
Yes, the
For
bricking.
either salvaging later. Well, there's the bricking, but also you can take ships and put them in your hangar to keep them. I made a little short on this yesterday. You can actually use this feature to borrow your friend's ship. There's one little caveat to that. Um, if your friend claims a ship, it's going to break it in your or it's going to brick it in your hangar. And then the other thing is when you do park it, you need to unlock unlock all ports, or go to the engineering terminal and lock the doors open before you sort, so you can get back in. And that's only if your friend's offline and they're not in party, that you need to do that. If they're in party, you have access to their vehicle, but you can store it in your hangar and bring it back up and use it. So I had recently got a reclaimer, and I gave that to Salzi, who took it, put it in his hangar, and it was there for him to bring up at any time. And unfortunately, he had forgot to unlock the doors, but we partied back up, and he was basically able to bring it back out. So
Okay.
I think that's a pretty cool feature, and I hope they build on that when it comes to like being in an org and being able to share ships and stuff. I think that would be cool. I understand that that's probably threatening their sales model, right? Because if
But
people
it's
can just
something
borrow ships,
they've kind of promised us for a while now, and you have already
yeah.
had the opportunity to fly other people's ships as long as you were in a group. I think that's
Hmm.
just a necessary step for orgs, especially around ships like the Idris, the Javelin, and the Odin and the Kraken. And thank you, Quiz, for confirming that the Idris M crew size is 28 people.
20, yeah, that's a lot of people to get together and just to, orchestrate as a team, manning a ship.
So that's going to add a lot of load to servers. So we got a lot of new
Hmm.
content, we got a lot of new ships, but there's a giant caveat, and there's a reason why. And I don't think I'm really, divulging any crazy news here, but the Star Citizen community is pretty pissed off right now, for very good reason, I feel like. And in case you haven't figured it out by now, I am not going to be incredibly positive today because I don't think there's too much positive stuff to be around. I think the most positive stuff was everything we just talked about. It was essentially just laying out what came in. There's one thing I want to add about the tactical strike groups, which is they added in this event, which is hidden behind 3 levels of rep with Intersec. It's a lot of grind just to get that mission unlocked. And so they released a contract that you had to spend. I mean, I know some people got it really quick, but I'm sure they spent at least 24 hours grinding to get there, maybe a little less. But it's the equivalent of dozens and dozens and dozens of contracts to get to that level of rep. I've been
Hmm.
slowly working on it. I'm halfway through the level before you unlock the TSGs, so that is something that eventually we'll get to. But I'm not in a hurry, and even if you were in a hurry, it's not like it would really help anything because the game has been difficult to play, and I think that's a bit of an understatement.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it
So just
released.
beginning with patch, it came out. It was pretty difficult. I have noticed an improvement with the server maintenance that they recently did, but there are still some glaring issues of things.
So the first problem we had when 4.8 went live was the contract system completely broke. I mean, disintegrated across pretty much every single server, shard, whatever you want to call it. It was a hot, hot mess. That was the biggest issue that people had on day one. Besides being able to connect, besides other people still for the third or fourth patch in a row having issues with items that they had bought in store not appearing in their inventory. 4.8's release also brought in a new bug that CIG quickly had to fix for legal reasons, and anyone who says otherwise just doesn't know how the law works. People weren't able to get their paid for paints and items back after a ship was destroyed or through a claim. That's a big no no. So they had to, with the hotfix and the server maintenance that came about a week after the release, they had to get in a system which essentially is a workaround where you can now, through your freight elevator or your inventory, or sorry, the ship kiosk, I believe, you can claim those items in its own store claimer system. That's probably a terrible way to put it, but the idea is there. And that was something they absolutely had to get done, and I'm sure that was the legal division's number one priority for them was to get that fixed because that was a big issue. Now, there were other issues, and I'm sure Cody's got some stuff to say about this. The biggest issue in 4.8, besides terrible frame rate, besides the contracts not showing up, besides contracts not being able to be finished and complete because there was some bug along the way, those are actually almost more normal Star Citizen problems. But for the first time in a while, most ships when they're released have bugs associated to them. I think everybody's pretty much used to that now. But the Ironclad was a new level of foobar for Star Citizen. It has more bugs listed than I've ever seen for a ship on release. It literally has been driving players crazy. It has forced certain people to stop playing. It has certain people looking to potentially take legal action because essentially people spent $600 on a ship for some. That doesn't work at all, or that didn't work at all when it first came out, and still today has a lot of issues. So I'm gonna swing it on over to Cody, who owns an Iron Dud, and let
Hmm.
him kind of walk us through the issues you had as it came out.
Yeah, so I was essentially really excited for the Ironclad to come out because it was going to be my big ship that I could use as a like a mobile base, right? Especially with the beginning of Wipe. We're excited for this thing to come in. I've got small vehicles I can throw in this. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to go to planets. I'm going to go mining. I'm going to go salvaging with it, load it up, take it back to a station, sell that material or use that material for crafting. Like it was going to be a big centerpiece to the gameplay loops I was looking to get into and just, be part of the channel. Unfortunately, on release, you could spawn this thing. Well, we'll say we'll start in the PTU. When you would spawn it, you couldn't even get into the command module. You would just fall through. So then they had a separate command module that you would have to spawn and bring up, put in the side of your hangar, bring up the ironclad, use the other command module to shoot the one attached to it to blow it off, and then you would have to dock to the ironclad to pull it out of the hangar. And then let's see. Now, for the most part, whenever you get pulled or you quantum travel, you'll randomly get pulled out of quantum. It'll de-dock itself, so then you'll have to target it and redock, taking more time in the travel. And then you will get to your destination. It'll de-dock again at the end of quantum travel. There was an issue where you couldn't go through the gates, so having a big freighter that size made no sense for interstellar cargo missions because you would queue up to the portal, and as soon as you got pulled in, you would put on spin cycle. You'd get kicked out, several GM away from the station. You'd have to travel back and try and go again. You couldn't get through, and luckily the other day after server maintenance, I was able to make it through from Nix to Stanton, which was interesting. But as soon as I came out, it de-docked. The command module de-docked from the Ironclad, so then I had to go and redock again. And luckily, I haven't had this happen to me in a instance where like I'm entering a planet's gravity, so I can like I haven't had the issue with that, so I could actually redock. But if it's in gravity, you're not catching up to that, the ironclad itself to redock, and that's just going to fall into the planet and blow up. So you're going to end up losing your ship. And this is something that I think is turned a lot of people off because it's a lot of work just to get around in it. Also, the other issue right now that I've seen, not just in the Ironclad, but in other ships, the Ironclad will kill you randomly for no reason, even with a spacesuit on or a helmet on. um, so there's an issue with the life support systems. If you look at it, the longer that you have the Ironclad on, the higher the number gets for like life support, the oxygen in the air or whatever it is.
The temperature.
That yeah, or the temperature will either go skyrocket or you'll be freezing. So like just trying to live in the ship will kill you. And it's not the only ship that I've seen that has had like the heating issue
Yeah, the
or
C2.
the air issue currently. So there's some kind of change that's done to the life support system that is pseudo in the game right now that we can't take care of. I don't know if it's part of the engineering loop or if it was just some value change on the life support systems based off the size of ships, but something within that system is causing a bug that for no rhyme or reason will hurt the player. And if you're out somewhere away from an armistice zone and this ship kills you and runs into something and blows up or whatever it is, like that sets you back hours and hours, and that's really unfortunate.
So I know the temperature bug is also happening in the C2. Somebody reached out to me about that the other day, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you there. So that's
Mm-hmm.
again unfortunate. The other thing that we saw was, to add to the list of things that changed along with the Odin's arrival, or sorry, not the Odin, the Ironclad's arrival, was a huge ship rebalance too, in terms of armor, shields, weapon damage. A lot of that changed, and a lot of it is not good. I just want to point this out. I was doing a bounty with my Connie Andromeda, Thor size 5 Galdarines on it, laser repeaters, or laser, whatever they're called, cannons. So not cannons, they're repeaters.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot kill another Connie if you are in a stock Connie. Your weapons will take out the shields, but you are incapable of doing any damage to the armor. Again, Like I'll get into the more yeah, get into that a little bit later. But I just wanted to point that out now because that is so freaking frustrating. To go
Hmm.
back to ships, I
So
think it's I
I
gotta
want to add to that.
yeah, go for it.
Me and Bert were in his Paladin, okay, a stock Paladin, a specific gunship for taking out other ships, right? It's got four size fives on the top. You know, you basically got a Connie there sitting on the top, right, of worth of firepower, and you know, an additional four size fours for the pilot or other gunners, if you will. We couldn't take out a Corsair.
And
We could
which
get
one?
its shields. We couldn't take out a Corsair with a Paladin. So, like a stock Paladin couldn't take out a Corsair. So we could get its shields down, like you're saying, against the Connie, but we couldn't do any hull damage. I could do damage to its weapons specifically, but I couldn't take out a Corsair with a Paladin, which was absolutely insane. So yeah, the weapon balance, there's something completely wrong with it. In fighting PvE, I haven't done any PvP. Fighting PvE right now only feels viable unless I'm in like Perseus with something with really big guns that outclasses whatever it is I'm going up against.
I agree. Actually, the only thing I've had any fun in is the Perseus,
Yeah.
and with at least one or two other people. That's the only ship that has made whatever this master mode soup is for
Hmm.
ship combat enjoyable. I went and did a lot of solo contracts in my F7 and in my Connie. It's not fun. You're just going around in circles or jousting or going around in circles or jousting or going around. That's all you do. That is, and
Yeah.
it's a DPS battle. It's who's going to be able to do the most damage faster than the other one. It is
Hmm.
not a skill related thing. It has nothing to do with any of that. They have essentially watered it down now so badly with the flight with the flight model and the combat model that honestly ship stuff unless you're multi crew and you're in something enjoyable like the Perseus, it's just not worth it. It's not going to be rewarding. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be frustrating. And this is something else that happened at the very beginning of the patch, and I think we've briefly touched on this without really talking about it, which is because we have to mention desync. Desync has been a really big problem for multiple patches now, especially PvP and as well in PvE. You don't know where your target is at all times. You can't be sure what you're shooting at is actually there. And what does that what does that mean? It means that sometimes when you think you've hit someone, the shots aren't registering. And that's something that we came up against a lot. And that's one of the known bugs I know of on the Tiburon, which is those size 7 turrets sometimes don't do any damage. The laser will, but those size 7s won't. And the only other turret that does is the tail turret, which is, I think, size 4s. Repeaters on it.
Okay, I have a little pro tip for you guys out there too. So you know, a lot of times, especially on the Perseus, you'll go over to the configuration screen in the MFDs and go to gunnery and go to the very bottom and stagger firing on the cannons. Okay, above that, four toggles is show leg pips, and this will offset the circle with the interpolation of your client and the server, and you'll start hitting your targets again. I had really good luck with this because we were shooting light fighters or medium fighters in the Perseus, and we were hitting them. We could see the animation of hitting their shields. It was against the Vandul at a QV station, and we're hitting them, but it was taking like way too many shots. As soon as we switched over to this show leg pips, we were killing him in like 3 to 4 shots, if that.
So
So,
maybe I need to try that. I did change my pips on some stuff, and I went to lag, or I went.
hmm
I typically like to lead the target.
yeah,
So besides desync being an issue, these obvious
I,
bugs on the different ships.
let's touch on desync real quick. Have we got our post yet that Jared asked for live on
No,
Star Citizen Live?
and I actually watched a
So,
Cameral video on that yesterday morning, saying, "Where the hell is this post that we've been waiting for 2 months?"
so as a community, as a whole, we really need to start pushing this issue because it was something that was like, hey, can you do this for us? Jared made a point to stop the show and call a dude and ask him to make a post about the desync. And it would be really nice to get some kind of explanation for it.
That was an
For
act.
them.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
believe
Oh, I
there's.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But like, we haven't seen anything on it, and I think we need to hold them accountable for doing those sort of things, and not just let them get away with it. Unfortunately.
All right. Well, we talked about the Odin. Devilius just sent me something that I think we should talk about real quick.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get this up on screen. Actually, no. Before we go into that, sorry, I'm not going to get too straight away from my outline because we were starting to talk about communication. Actually, no. Let's stick with somewhat positive for a second. Let's talk about the wipe and what that entailed. A lot of people don't like losing all their stuff, and I can understand that. And this is the only time I ever subscribe to this train of thought, which is in a game in development, wipes are kind of to be expected. As someone who, I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, but I love to set up servers for people. I love to modify things. I've started creating my own mods in other games and stuff like that. So I've had this desire to learn, and I've learned quite a few things, and I've bothered many people in my community who know more than I do, and I'm sure they hate me now. I'm sorry, Tonic. But I've had this desire to learn and understand. And what I've learned through that is when you're making big changes, a database wipe is often incredibly necessary in order to see exactly what's happening. And I think without going into the, timeline of Star Citizen and, how long it takes for things to get in and stuff like that, like that is just a fact. It's just how things are. And so I honestly think Star Citizen should be doing more wipes because one of the reasons why we wiped in the first place was because the economy got so bad with duping, with exploits, with people buying money off of eBay, just dumping billions of credits into the game, inflating all the prices and making what you earn through normal contracts basically worthless. That was one of their main reasons for doing the wipe. Now, I've heard reports of the duping was already back in the PTU. I think like I said earlier, one of the reasons why they took so long to get it out and they didn't hit their initial target was because they were trying to fix some of these issues that were popping up.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, and I haven't seen this confirmed, but I've heard rumors of people being banned for duping in 4.8 Live. I haven't seen that confirmed. I don't really want to talk about that right now. I just wanted to put that out there because we will talk about that in a little bit. But the going back to the wipe, the reason why the wipes are important is database. You need to clear things up, and in this one, we really needed a clean slate for the economy because it was just completely out of control. So we get those wipes, but what does that mean? Now you got to start over, and this is where I have positive things to say about Star Citizen, as I have actually really enjoyed when it works, which isn't always, being
Mm-hmm.
able to go back, grind out some starting cash, work towards ships, get that rep for the bigger stuff. And then what's been nice, and I'm not a fan of the crafting system right now, or sorry, I like the crafting. I'm not a fan of the materials needed and how you get those materials. But being able to get blueprints at the same time as you're doing this now, it just kind of adds stuff and you feel like you're making more progress when it works. And again, I'm going to keep adding that caveat because the problem is a lot of people have not been able to get it to work. And I know Cody touched on this earlier, but your experience in Star Citizen is almost unique to you and your machine because everybody else has different experiences, everybody else has different connections, everybody else has a different machine. Anyways, those make for disjointed experiences within the community. And it's a lot of the reason why I feel there's such disconnect at times, and you have people who are like, no, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I've been having a blast and everything works for me. And then others are like, I can't even get out of my hab. I can't get out of my ship. I can't get my ship to come off the pad. I can't open up my hangar. My ship's been claimed 3 times. It's been destroyed because whatever. A lot of these little things. So you have these really lopsided experiences. However, the needle kind of always leans in one way. And most of the time it leans towards more people are being able to play than not. This time, It's way on the other side. There's more people having issues playing than anything else. And that's a problem for a game that,
Mhm.
wants to be a live service. So that's my positive experience so far in 4.8. Have you felt the same or
Yeah, no, I've witnessed the same. I've heard various, issues through my friend group. One specifically of stuff clipping in and like haunting a friend of mine, Bert Orbital. If you haven't checked him out,
we
please
love
do.
Bert?
But uh, he's had the worst last couple of days in game because stuff has just appeared in front of him and blown his ship up, or there was nothing there at all and blew his ship up. That like happened to us last night, like twice in a row. And so it can be really frustrating because that can set you back. Imagine being a prospector and you found some 900 plus material, right? Let's say a decent amount of it. So you're headed back to the station, and all of a sudden, a ship. You get to the station, you're flying in, and then a ship just appears and blows you up, and you lose the cargo and everything. Like it's that level of stuff that like can what I've said in a prior podcast. It's just it wastes your time in a sense, right? So like you get two steps ahead and then you're one step back, or in some cases you're two steps back. You're starting from ground zero. You're starting over completely. So it's yeah, there's I've heard various reports. Some people maybe stick to one type of gameplay loop and they have no issues and they have a good time, where me and my friend group, we tend to touch on every kind of thing that's in the game and check out all the content. And we run into issues because you know, we're exploring all of the game and not just some of the game. So it's, yeah, it can be really frustrating. Um,
So
yeah, I don't know
I'm
what to add
glad
to
you
that.
touched on that because I've been kind of basically kind of being like, yeah, it doesn't always work, but when it doesn't work, it's important to know what doesn't work, and it can be everything from everything you've tried to do in that PlayStation, like all the way back to the beginning, can just disappear in a heartbeat, and that has
Hmm.
been incredibly frustrating for many people. Even certain people I know that are typically very positive have been losing their shit because they can't get things done. It's you know I find it funny to a certain extent that some people are waking up and going like, "Wait, I didn't realize there was this many issues." Like, yeah, because you hadn't seen them yet. And again, I
Hmm.
understand that a lot of people don't understand things until they actually are confronted with them themselves. You can hear it from somebody else, but it never has the same weight as when you are confronted with it yourself. And I think it's kind of interesting that people are starting to realize this is not all I've been pushing it to be, or it's cracked out to be. Now, with that, where are we at? 1 second. Okay,
Hmm.
let's talk about one more thing before we do a break. So, let's stay on this for a second, actually. When you go into a game, unless you are very active on the forums or have a Discord community or you're on Twitter, whatever, or on Reddit, whatever it is, and you're listening to people and their experiences, you really have no idea what's going to work and not work. And again, like we just said earlier, which is your experience may not be the same as somebody else's. So like I've known a lot of people who have had cargo just straight up disappear out of their ship or their ship disappear with the cargo and they've lost either the ability to complete a contract, which that's the lesser of the two evils. The other evil is, well, you just lost all your money if you were commodity trading or anything like that. And that is a huge, huge, huge source of frustration. But what does that mean? That means essentially this game doesn't respect your time, either through design or through how it plays. Because when everything's breaking and you can't complete anything, that's not respecting your time. That is the biggest disrespect of time is and your money because you've spent money on a product that just doesn't work. And that's normally illegal, but CIG has I'd say, I used to say the rock star at CIG was Benoit. Now I am convinced the Rockstars or CIG are the legal department. They're the only ones that really deserve all their money. And that's not necessarily a good thing for us consumers, which, at the end of the day, we're just trying to consume a game that we believed in anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
to go back to the design of it not wanting to respect your time, the way the missions play out, what you have to do, the amount of distance you have to travel sometimes to do these contracts, which can take a minute sometimes, or can take maybe sometimes a little longer. But there are times where you will potentially spend 5 to 15 minutes going somewhere for that mission to take a minute. And then now you got to go spend 5, 10, 15 minutes going somewhere else to do another contract, which can be completed in a minute or two. Which is just not a respect to your time. Also, one thing that I was starting to, because this morning I was doing a lot of reading and watching videos on Star Citizen and everything, kind of
Mm-hmm.
trying to gather my thoughts and create an outline. One of the things I'm seeing more and more and more, and I've been yelling about this forever, is they're like, it's not fun. I'm like, yeah, finally, you're understanding it's not fun. These missions are boring. They're very
Mm-hmm.
bland. There's no spice to them. It's white bread with no butter or anything on it. It's just plain. There's no.
You just eating regular store bought sliced bread.
It's just Wonder
Nothing.
Bread, and there's not even any jelly on it. All right, or peanut
Mm-hmm.
butter. It's just bread. Which look at. I'm a Frenchman. I love bread. I'll eat bread by itself all the time.
Well, okay. Compare these missions to something, say, like the big event missions that they do, like the ASD, the QB missions, now the Tactical Strike Group. Like those all feel like you're adding into a story. You're tearing into a story. You're going somewhere to discover something and do something kind of new. And a lot of these other missions, of course, are meant to, of course, get some economy going, build some reps so you can get to these things. But man, are they just? It's it's very cookie cutter. You're just going from one to the next. Even if it's on another moon and stuff, it's just all way too similar. So it gets boring,
And
you
one thing
know?
that really pissed me off in the last few days, it's kind of stopped my desire to go back to the grind, is one of the things that I've always loved doing is bunkers in this game. And I know they're not as popular as there once was because, like you just said, there's bigger, better events and things to do that actually feel like they have some kind of meaning behind them. But
Hmm.
bunkers are a great way to make some cash, to get some loot, hopefully find some cool items, and just a good way to kind of spend some time in the verse.
Yeah.
Problem is contracts don't always work, but I will say that the Eckhart bunker contracts that I've been taking have, for the majority of them, worked when you can get one. Where I
Hmm.
have had issues is the desync playing through those contracts. The AI are either completely cracked out, they see you from a mile away and they're insta headshotting you, or they're completely dumb, have their back turned to you, have no idea what's going on around them. And one of the things that's been really frustrating in terms of the gameplay is I've seen bullets go through cover a lot. I've been hit by invisible bullets a lot. Um, Enemies, the audio is all messed up. Right now, left and right audio works okay, but up and down is completely broken. So if somebody is underneath you or above you, they sound like they're right next to you.
Hmm.
And the audio in Star Citizen is actually very broken right now. I don't know if you guys have gone to a refining center in any station, but the sound is so loud and overwhelming that I have to systematically mute the game when I go through there because it's just chaos. Pure
Just the
sound
droning,
chaos.
yeah, the voice lines, everything. Like, yeah, the sound is in a bad state. And that's not to go without saying, like the sound team that's been doing sound for ships has been doing an amazing job. Like the ships that have been coming out, the noises that they're making really draw you into the game. They add to the immersion. But yeah, some of um, the sound. What do I want to say? The soundscapes within the game
It's the sound
are just
design that's broken right now.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
mix because individual sounds. I
Mm-hmm.
will say I agree with you. The sound engineers over at CIG are very good because we have some
Mm-hmm.
very cool sound design at times. But the overall sound
Yep.
design right now is broken. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I feel like that's tied to server or sorry, shard, stability, health, and they're all terribly unhealthy right now. They've
Yeah.
had way too much McDonald's over the last month. But
Well, like some of the stuff, like there was a bug with the ironclad to do with like the engines, and they would just get stuck in this loop, right? It was like the quantum sound or whatever it was. You just hear it all the time. Or there's the other sound, that the whirring sound when you go to like a hangar or whatever, that it just constantly goes, and it's like, you know, those sort of things, like I don't want to say shouldn't be in the game. Like those sounds would be cool. Like if you're refueling in the station, right, and you know the tubes come out and they connect it to the ship, and you hear it refueling. That's cool, but it shouldn't just be like this constant freaking noise coming from the ship, because it's I don't know. It just gets like mundane but annoying. You know, especially after
It's
a while.
well, there's a lot
It's
of
almost
things that bother our ears that we don't necessarily realize. Constant sounds at certain frequencies will cause irritation. I mean, all the way
hmm
up to causing nausea, and then the infamous fabled brown note, obviously, which is the top scale, but that doesn't really
hmm
exist. Um, no, I think audio wise, it's not good right now. It's like we've still getting audio bugs. Like when you're in a this happened in the less in the Perseus, but it still did happen and happened in other ships. Is like you're firing the Gatlings and the sounds keeps going of them spooling, but you're not actually firing anymore. One of the notes
Yeah.
I saw on in comments and stuff was people were complaining about the Ironclad's thruster sound being completely borked.
Yep.
There's just a lot of that. So like right now, if we were to talk about playability and stability, basically to sum it up, is bad. But some
hmm
people have less bad, and people have more badderer, more baddest.
The most baddest
The,
batterer. You know, how, how much how much can we throw on top of this? But yeah, some people have a really tough time and they just step away from the game and they'll come back later, right? You know, they have that mentality. But um, you know, when this patch released, we heard it. They said, "Oh, we're going to hold off on the free fly. It's not fair." Blah blah blah. And then a day and a half later, we had free fly, and they hadn't fixed everything.
okay, that's
So
something else we got to talk about, and that's going to come in with the
yeah.
communication. But yeah, right now the game is not stable. The game is not a coherent experience amongst the community. And yeah,
hmm
there are some terrible bugs, and we've covered desync, we've covered ship bugs, which is just pure functionality. We've covered sound bugs, claim bugs. I mean, the list of bugs we've seen here is I think the list of bugs are worse than the bugs we had in 318, which obviously we have more things in the game now than we did back in 318. But yet
Yeah.
318 is the epitome of terrible patches, right? I still think 318 was
hmm
worse because you really couldn't do anything. Whereas here, a lot of things don't work, but you still have enough functionality where you can go to another planet and then find out there that it doesn't work. And then you can go take a contract and then get there and
So
realize it doesn't work. So
so so is there a trend? Every patch that ends with an eight is just bad. A step in the wrong direction. Like,
maybe at
how
this
does this
point,
go, man?
I don't know. Maybe everyone, next time you see an 8.8 patch, just stay the hell away. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't
When
know
we
if
get to
that's.
5.8, maybe maybe take a break.
But no, these issues have been crazy, and yes, and we're going to talk about this a bit more in a second, when we come back from this break. But there have been there's been very little effort by CIG to communicate or to tell us what the next steps are. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back from this little Bezos moment that we have to take. It also gives me a great place to do a cut in my edit.
So what I had said was, what I've noticed is your experience seems to be reliant on your ping, on the latency. So lately, I've been choosing servers that are close to me, um, and I've been having less issue. The uh, the main point I made was I know how we like to server hop and select low population servers, because typically in a low pop server you do have a better time because there's less people on the shard, there's more resources available for the server, your game runs better, you know, and again, we run into less issues. But I've had more luck now with lower ping than I have had in the past. It seems I'm not losing weapons and stuff due to the latency between my client and the server.
That's another bug I've seen a lot of people have when we're going through QVs or anything like that. Is sometimes you try to pick up an object or a weapon, and the one you already were holding just is gone, disappeared,
Hmm.
and that's been a point of frustration for a lot of people. And that's not a new bug. That's something that was around in the past that had kind of been resolved and hadn't seen in a while, and now it seems to be back. And that's the other thing is, these bugs, they come back a lot. They never really go
Hmm.
away. There are bugs that have been around since I started playing, and from what people tell me, they were there before I started. So, the ASOP terminal problems with ships disappearing or going into a claim state because the game thinks they've been destroyed, like that stuff has been a problem for a long time. And I think it's unacceptable. I'm just going to say it. It's unacceptable that a game that requires us, the backers, to fund them with no benefits to our funding, by the way, because we're not investors. We're not even
Hmm.
donating, so you can't write it off on your taxes. Like, we're just screwed. We're just giving them money so they can make a game, but they don't ever act like they owe us anything, which is very shitty. And I'm not saying that you owe us everything, because, well, kind of do, especially with the big news this morning. I'm sure all of you are aware. Star Citizen, CIG, has officially crossed the $1 billion in backer funds. Now, that is not taking into account the private investment that has been done into the game. I believe the private investment is above 75 million. There was also an article recently about I believe they're called the Calder family, which is their main investor, has just put in an extra 10 million. Um, Someone had told me recently that they doubled down. I went to look into it. They didn't actually double down. They doubled down on their commitment, but they didn't double down monetarily. They gave them an extra 10 million.
Mm.
Which I don't think if you're an investor, this is the time to pull out because investors don't give two shits about whether the game functions or not. They just care whether they're going to get money for their investment. That's it. And right now, they're getting money for their investment. We've in the last 4 years, we generated more than the previous 8 combined.
Jesus.
And
Woo.
now this is what I wanted us to talk about. And thank you, Devil, for sending Devilius for sending. There's too many devils in my chat now. Like the other night, Devil's Night, and Devilius were in chat, and they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Wait, no, sorry, Devils." Anyways, it gets confusing.
Yeah.
But let's see if I can pull this up so we can take a look at it. Also, there's a Variety article um, that came out this morning that I think we should take a look at as well. And I'll put that up in a minute. So, the last hour broke the funding per hour record by a lot. The previous record was set 4 days ago at 1.44 million in a day, while the last hour has had a staggering $6.62 million. Wave 1 of
Marion.
Odin's sales alone is nearly double the record setting full day of Aegis that passed this DefenseCon. 6.6 million versus 3.56. This is essentially equivalent to more than the entire 2012 Kickstarter and website campaign in a single hour. Of the 8 highest selling days in SC history, 4 have now been set in this DefenseCon alone, including the highest single day twice. Just let that sink in
Holy
for a
cow.
second. Okay, and here I'm not gonna make any friends right now. I was kind of probably not gonna do this, but now after having just reread that, I'm pissed. So we, the players in Star Citizen, are the problem. We are the problem. Don't think that it's the devs. Don't think that it's management. Don't think that it's their legal team. They are all a part of the problem, but the true, real problem is us, the players. Why? Because we don't do shit when they shit all over us. We don't.
We continue to fund them. We reward them for this stuff.
Exactly. Things don't work. Let me open up my wallet to get a ship because it's too hard for me to get it in game.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to sell flight blades? Cool. Here's more money so that I can have something that really isn't going to have any importance in game or give me just such a slight edge that I don't really think that it matters. We do this all the time. And I'm sorry, and I hear you, Dex, and I know where you're coming from. I don't think the game has been great. I think between patches 4.2 and 4 and then all the way up to 4.6 was the best we've had Star Citizen. So I agree with you that there was a good 6 to 8 months where things were actually pretty damn good. Not perfect, not great, but pretty damn good, especially comparatively to where we were before. But just because things were better, I don't agree with spending money now when they're not better, when they're bad. They're just bad. And I think every time CIG does something like this to us, where everything starts to break and everything starts to fall to pieces, and they make more money than ever before, they are never going to care about our day-to-day experience, ever. We've already all pretty much convinced they have convinced us, at least many of us, that they do not play their game, at least not in the same environment that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Every time these things happen, they seem to have ships to sail and their numbers go crazy again. They will never change as long as they make these record amounts of money while these problems are persisting. Because they look at it and they go, people must be having a great time. They just spent all this money. Because the normal train of thought is to think if something doesn't work, you're not going to fund it more. But for some reason, we end up in this state in Star Citizen. Specifically, I don't really see it in any other games where, oh no, I need to give them money or this is not going to happen. That is not true. I'm sorry, I do not believe that anymore. Because what most of us are talking about is not saying never give them money again. No. What we're talking about is closing your wallet until meaningful change has been made to give us a better experience, to respect our time, and most importantly, our money.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
Yeah.
I hear just one last thing. I hear what Dex is saying is like, if he had known 4.8 would be this bad, he wouldn't spend the cash. I can understand that if you go, if before the patch you spend the money. If you spend it after the patch dropped, yeah, you're funding the problem, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm not trying to be a dick and say, everybody has the right to do whatever they want with their money. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. I'm just pointing out the fact that as long as they have these incredibly successful financial days, we're not going to see a push towards stability or playability. We will not be respected, and that's I see this, more and more in how they decide to do things and their lack of communication. If you go and look at what they've put up online and on YouTube, on their YouTube channel or on their Twitter or whatever, it is only about ship sales. They have barely communicated on the state of the game. They have not communicated on when the next hotfix is going to come out. They have not communicated on whether they can actually get all these problems fixed with the Iron Chad and other ships. They are not respecting us. And I've seen so many people on Reddit, so many people on YouTube and content creators' videos saying this is unacceptable. And yet now we learn that they've had their most successful hour of all time. And like, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad as an individual. I want us as a collective, as the community who plays this game, to understand how necessary it is for us to stop validating their mistakes. And that's really the point I want to make. So I'm sorry, Cody. I went on for a little bit. You go for it.
No. You nailed it. I mean, it's like I kind of lost my thought of what I was gonna say because it's just like as a community in whole, we need to quit. Um, we need to quit rewarding them for what the state of the game is. Like, I had spent the money on the Ironclad before it came out, and then it came out, and I was hugely disappointed. And like I still have that want to play the game and stuff, but as a community in whole, we need to come together and we need to hold them accountable for what's going on right now. I have seen the advertising through their Twitter and through YouTube, and I've seen commercials for the game, and it's all, like you said, derived around ship sales. And I can see where the resources are going on their end. I mean, the ship team has been killing it. The ship team is producing some really cool ships, and yeah, I want them, but man, I don't want to invest any more in the game. I've made I've made moves on my account to further my fleet. Like I had bought a moth when that came out because I wanted something bigger than my vulture, and I couldn't get a reclaimer at the time, so I bought a moth. Then I heard reports that it was broken, so I never pulled it up. I never used the moth. What I ended up doing was using this defense con to melt the moth and get ships that made sense in my fleet. So I melted the moth. I got myself a salvation and a golem to go in my ironclad because, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the ironclad was going to be the central focal point of my content or my playing time in this game, and I can't do that currently without interruption, without time wasted, without disconnecting from the module and having to reconnect and taking that time over and over and over again, just trying to commute around the verse.
So,
So,
question for you,
mm-hmm.
because we all know what certain people in this community will immediately point to. Do you feel it coming? Do you feel what I'm about to lay down?
I have a couple of ideas, but go ahead, sir.
Well, it's only an alpha, guys. It's just an alpha. Guys, it's in development. Come on. What is wrong with you? Why are you complaining, huh? How dare you? It is an alpha, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck you, whoever you say. I can't take that shit anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. That
Mm-hmm.
is. I'm sorry. I
To me,
apologize. I shouldn't
that's
have
an
said.
excuse at
I
this
shouldn't have said
point. I think that's copium, hopium, whatever you want to call it. Calling it an alpha at this state, like, yeah, they're adding features still, and I get that. But look at how, like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in an alpha game before, but typically you're looking at gray box. They're establishing gameplay loops in an alpha. You're not looking at fully textured, fully modeled, high poly, 3D freaking structures. You're looking at this is a basic map layout to see how it plays out. You're looking at, okay, we've introduced this weapon and it's going to fire this fast and do this much damage. You're hashing out gameplay loops in the game and experimenting with how it's going to play out. And sure, they're doing some of that in this, but we're getting fully fledged looking ships, fully textured things that just look absolutely amazing. And you see that in a finished product. And so, in my opinion, this is done upside down. They're doing everything on the art side to make it look almost like a completed project. But in when you get down to the bones of it, it's not all there. And I think people get lost in that. They get lost in the beauty of the game. It looks amazing, cool, that's awesome. But then you start running into the bugs. You start running into the fact that, okay, well, it takes me, like they changed they changed the quantum drive and like the paladin and stuff, and or the speed, the stock speed, and so you end up spending 15 minutes to try and get to a gateway for from one side of Stanton to get over to Pyro because you want to go do something in Pyro or say Nyx. And so you're sitting there for 15 minutes just traveling.
So
Cool.
I agree with you that everything is done ass backwards. They started with the graphics when that is typically the last thing you go for. You get all the framework in, you get all your features in, you get your items in, functioning with each other, interacting properly, and then you clean and polish and bring up the beautification. So, yes, back asswards all day long. That has been the CIG motto. But there was one point I wanted to make. Um, uh, I forgot what the point I wanted to make was, but no, I agree with you. I think their priorities are all skewed. I think it's partly because of how they've decided to finance the game and build the game, which I think, and then I think also a major part of it is who Chris Roberts is and what he values above everything else. He's a big fan of fidelity. He's always wanted it to look amazing, to be very pretty, to be very cinematic, and he's achieved that at the cost of a playable game, but he has achieved that. The I had high hopes for the server maintenance when they decided to do that. I was like, okay, finally they get it. And first of all, I want to say this should be a regular weekly or every 2 week thing. There should be a 6 hour server maintenance on every single freaking server out there to make sure that people can have the best experience possible. Why? Because you've made enough damn money now. And this alpha excuse, but that's not how you do game design. Well, that goes out the window because, as we've already stated and established, you do it all ass backwards, back asswards. And it's not fair to us. It's not positive for the players now coming in to have a new experience. And this takes me to what which we haven't really talked about yet, which is the free fly. So to kind of put it into context, Cody touched on it briefly, but patch was released literally a couple hours before the beginning of the DefenseCon event. DefenseCon event starts, free fly starts, everything's a shit show. It's on fire. They then decide to make a decision to postpone the free fly indefinitely, not setting a date. They said, we'll do it when it's ready or that makes more sense. And here's why I think they did it. If you go back and you watch the SCL where Jared talks about this at the very beginning of the episode, he mentioned something about waiting for it to calm down to be a decent experience. Because he also talks about player concurrency, and they've beaten their most concurrency in terms of players, yada yada yada. Until they actually show us their numbers and they're provable, I don't really care. But the other thing I want to say is I would love to see those numbers now today, almost 2 weeks later, because I bet you those numbers crashed within 12 to 24 hours. They probably saw a peak they had never seen, and I'm willing to bet 70% of people just disappeared, bounced, went on to something else. That is not positive. That is not a good metric to evaluate the success of your patch on. Or sorry, it is if you're looking at it the right way and you look at it as, well, no, this was a shitty patch. We fucked up because we lost X amount of people within the first 24 hours. So what happens? Servers calm down because that influx of people is now gone. The servers have a little bit more time to relax. Some of these self-repairing features they've added in, which again, objectively, as its own individual thing, is a positive. I'm glad they're doing stuff like that. I think it makes sense in an MMO. But you have the servers starting to calm down. The player base is left. Servers have restarted maybe once or twice. They've had a server error and repaired themselves. They're back up. They're running a little bit more stable. Now you open up the valves for your free fly. But that is incredibly dumb because you've hurt your free fly. You're no longer going to get the same influx of new players potentially coming to see it because, well, they came in 4 days earlier, saw a shit experience, and left. And no one in their right mind thinks that 4 days later they're going to reopen up this free fly. There was no communication done on it. I think maybe they dropped a Twitter post. I think maybe they mentioned it in a video. It was like, oh yeah, free fly is back up. That is terrible. You need to give time to your content creators, to your marketing, to your production team to get that message out, to bring in as much people. So here's where I think they don't actually care as much. And I think they doubled down on it because there is probably a bigger announcement coming either at the end of DefenseCon or in June with some of the game showcases or the gaming events that are coming out. And that's something else we're going to talk about in relation to Squadron 42 here in a little bit. But I guess to sum this part of it up is, can you honestly say you would go out and recommend this for somebody to come join in on a free fly?
I know I can't. I can't guarantee the type of experience that somebody's going to come in and have. I was excited about 4.8. I know there was a lot of hype around 4.8.
Oh, you just cut out. I lost you.
Hello, hello,
Yeah,
hello.
you're back. You're back.
Okay, so I know there was a lot of hype around 4.8. I had peak viewership around just the release of 4.8. I was streaming the night that it was supposed to release. It never released, so I went to bed. I was excited for 4.8. I was probably going to get my wife a game pack and get her on the game. But currently, with the state of the game, I don't want to bring any new players in. I don't want to show them this. You know, like it would just be in my opinion, a bad time.
I
I
think
could
it'd be
probably
terrible.
get them in. I could get them into like some gameplay loops that we could do over and over again. Would they want to do that? Maybe. Maybe they'd be curious enough and they'd want to stay around for that. But then once they started running into any sort of bugs, what am I going to tell them? I think the
This
thing
is
I'm
the
going to tell
way.
them really is yeah, this is the way. That this is what we deal with. It takes a very patient person, and it also takes, you know, somebody who's not just patient but willing to put up with this stuff to get through it. I know I play because I want to, I want to play with my friends. I want to make progress. 4 point like the wipe, I was excited for because of getting to evaluate my fleet and go through things and just see how everything works out and build up rep again. Like it get like I had a reason to jump in the game and do these things. And unfortunately, each one of those things I've run into a bug with, and it's delayed my progress in the game, and it's wearing me down to the point where I don't think I really want to continue if this is going to be the battle. And then you add on top the amount of time that it requires to sink into the game. It's more laborious than it is fun. It's getting
Absolutely.
to a point where it's very laborious to jump in the game and do the stuff. And I've had friends who play the game for like they're hyped, they want to get on the game. You get that hope back in you. You jump on the game, and stuff just starts happening. It's a trickle effect. It's like okay, I can make it past this little bug, whatever. And
There's a
then like the
workaround
big
for
stuff
this.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like you know what? I'm done for the day. I got to walk away. I can't play this. And they're not leaving on their own terms. They're leaving because of frustrations from the game. And I totally agree with you with the oh hey we had we had peak concurrent players and stuff. That was around the beginning of patch when we've had a good experience. 4.5, 4.6, 4.7. We've had a pretty decent experience. There's been some bugs, but not quite like what we're experiencing right now. And um, I think that's where a lot of the hype had come from. Mine was cold a little bit because of jumping into PTU and seeing what had happened with the Ironclad and the implementation of the command module. So I don't know. I'm at a crossroads right now. I'm continuing. I do enjoy Star Citizen. I can have fun with it, but I've been burned several times. So I'm 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 not just like pessimistic, but I'm really starting to question the management of CIG and how this project is coming along, just based off of my experience in the past and my overall gaming experience of what I've seen from just other games that are out there. Um, Star Citizen is unique in some aspects, but it's not unique entirely. And there will be something else that comes along that can be managed better and create a bigger impact.
So I want to quickly, just again, how everybody's experience is different. For me, the best patches were 4.2 to 4.5. After 4.5, I started having some really big issues, especially on patch day. One patch I was bricked out, couldn't log in for 72 hours. And then the following patch, I had everything that I had in my inventory attached to my hanger was all gone. And then after that, I had no personal hanger for an entire patch. Like for me, since 4.6, things have been pretty bad initially, and then they tend to stabilize a little bit. So again, that's where it comes down to really your individual experience. And I have people in the community, such as Kinky, who logs in at the beginning of a patch, all this stuff's gone. I mean, stuff that you paid money for, and that's not acceptable. Now, I think a lot of us tend to be complacent when certain things happen, and I'll use myself as an example here. A few patches ago, after 4.0 came out, I forget if it was in 4.1 or 4.2, but my starter pack is a Constellation Andromeda. All right, I can't get rid of it because my Squadron 42 package is included in that, so I can't. But when this patch dropped and I was trying to get my ship, the ship would spawn on the hangar elevator with nothing. And what I mean by nothing is it had no elevators, it had no turrets, it had no weapons, it had no modeled interior, it had no seats anywhere in the damn thing, it had no elevator, couldn't get into it. I don't even remember if the landing pads, like the landing gear was actually there, if it was just sitting kind of like it was sitting on, cinder blocks.
Hmm.
I created an initial cancel, I sent it in, they closed it within 48 hours with no resolution saying the problem had been resolved. For 2 months, I couldn't fly a ship that I spent money with. Why do I say I was complacent? I should have taken legal action right then and there, and I would have won. And there have been many cases where CIG has, instead of letting it get to court or escalate, will just purely refund the player and not say anything, and it flies under the radar. And so we get this impression that CIG is constantly above issues legally. That's not true. Um, to move on from that, I think clearly your experience is going to depend on if you're playing with a group, if you're playing solo, what game loops are you doing. And I don't think there is a single game loop in here that is spared from some sort of bug, because at some point you're going to have to go try and get a hanger. At some point you're going to have to use a freight elevator. At some point you'll have to do something that is probably broken for the majority of people. Or since no shard is perfect, I'm sorry, 1 second.
Hmm.
Forgot, I had to close the door. But because no shard is perfect, there's always something you're going to run into that is going to be problematic. So I can't say that the experience is positive. And, even though I've said this multiple times on streams, my experience hasn't been completely terrible. It's been pretty playable. But I feel like that's tied to two things. Well, three things: luck, internet connection, and strength of your own machine. I feel like people with stronger, higher tiered PCs are having less issues than people with mid to low tier. Recently, someone said they tried logging in the other night and they were getting a maximum of 15 FPS. That's not a playable game. And so, even though my experience may be somewhat okay, I have to take in how the community is responding, how people that reach out to me and ask me for help, or who purely just want to vent about their experience are feeling. So, even though my experience is probably a little bit better than most, it doesn't change anything for me. I am not deaf or blind to what other people are going through. I actually give a shit about this game and the community around it because I want to just remind you all of how great this community can be. When I started playing, there was no tutorials, there was no help from CIG in the game. You really had to either figure it out all on your own or rely on somebody to help you out. I found people in this community who were willing to go above and beyond to help me have a better experience. And I've tried to pay that forward to others because of how important I think that is to the game overall. It is another layer to the game that adds something that's kind of intangible. You can't put money on that. That's the community just being a good community. Now, that community has shifted over the years as people become more and more disenfranchised, and the illusion of what Star Citizen is starts to fade for them. And you can't hold it against them. I can't fault them for what they're going through. I can't take away what they're going through. I have to add it to my experience because these are the people I play with. And if they're not having a good experience, then I lose my group of good people and I don't have the same fun. And when you're trying to play a game that really does excel with more people, in terms of fun, and people don't want to play, well, your experience is going to suffer. And what I find unfortunate is a lot of the dumber, lower IQ people are going to lash out at their friends, at the people in their community, and be like, "Well, you're just a hater. We can make this work." But no, you have to respect people's time and what they feel like doing. So many people who were excited to play 4.8 haven't even bothered because they hear the news and they go, "I don't need to waste my time in this. Why should I?" So I don't think the community is the problem in terms of like, it's as toxic as Call of Duty. I go back to what I just said earlier, is the community is a problem because we lie to ourselves. And you go and you look at a lot of content being created around Star Citizen, it's mainly positive stuff. And that creates this disconnect and this weird this weird feeling from some people who start to feel like they're going insane. Is like, are people not having my experience? Are people not seeing the same things I'm seeing? And so, yeah, some content creators have gotten some backlash for it. And it's in a way it's a little justified because you create this disconnect with your community who don't feel what you're laying out. Well, it doesn't, the message doesn't go through.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Blipped, I don't like throwing out names, but yes, it was your complaint of only getting a maximum of 15 FPS. So, at the end of the day, I'll elaborate a little bit more on the community thing I was talking about because I kind of
Mm-hmm.
went on 3 tangents after that. But this is a great community, even though we've had a little bit of the mainstream toxicity come in a little bit more over the last year and a half. But that's normal as the game starts to reach a wider audience, starts to appeal to more people. You're going to get these people coming in. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. We just have to know how to deal with them. Best thing to do, ignore them. This has been my experience. And, just remember that as a community, we make this a better game. But that's not just in how we help each other figure out the game, that's how we hold CIG accountable. So, again, I just want to double down on like, I really hope everybody starts to understand it's not about how you should spend your money. It's about
Yeah.
how do we get a better game or something that resembles more of a game. Because right now, people throwing
Exactly.
out the tech demo argument again, I'm like, yeah, I'm not even going to fight you on that one. Like, we've gone
I
full tech
mean,
demo again.
when it comes to investors in tech demo, yeah, I mean this is a good way for CIG to show that they have an engine that can hopefully, or hopefully they can sell down the road to other developers to build on. But in its current state, I don't know if anybody's going to buy into that.
No, and I'm really happy you brought that up because you and I talked about this before stream, before the podcast. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to do a follow up next Sunday, and I'm going to bring in some people who are professional coders, developers who understand that world to explain a couple things to us, to talk to us about good developer practice. And I think it can help maybe open up the people's eyes on a couple things that are an issue in Star Citizen. Um, so that's planned for next weekend. So make sure to come check that out. I'm really looking forward to that because I've started to dabble in code and learning and understanding like the logic behind it, and I still have so much to learn. Um, but it has added a layer of appreciation for what's going on and of criticism because, well, I don't think you guys are doing the code in a way that makes sense. And I think they have no arguments against it, and it's becoming more and more obvious because every time we get some new patch with a lot of new tech or features in it, it tends to break everything. So the basis of what they're relying on isn't stable at all and is already some sort of Frankenstein patchwork to get us to something remotely playable. So I hope you all join next weekend for that conversation that'll be very, very interesting, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I'm definitely looking forward to that. I want to hear that from somebody that's got experience in that field.
right. So, how do we feel like this affects the future of Star Citizen? A couple people in chat have thrown out the 1.0. And there's something about that I do want to talk about real quick is I feel like there has been a very big content push in Star Citizen in the last year and a half. It's undeniable. If you compare the
Mm-hmm.
amount of content we've received in this last year and a half compared to the 5 years before that, it is way, way more. And
It
some of it has been very interesting.
it has accelerated. Just thinking in the last 6 to 8 months or something like that, it's or maybe it's last year. ASD, QE stations, now the TSG, Tactical Strike Group. Those have all been. I mean, I haven't been able to do the Tactical Strike Group. I've seen others doing it, and it looks like a level above the ones I mentioned prior. So they are getting more interesting, and I'm looking forward to content, like that being put into the game, or content like that being put into the game, and seeing them create new and fun, interesting and fun experiences, especially for team play, because this game scales really well as the group size gets larger, which has been cool. I'm sure we'll see that limit at some point, but right now it seems to grow with the group size, the fun factor that is.
Hmm. The
Um,
chaos factor, too. But yes, that is a part of the
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Um, and yeah, I'm hopeful for the future of this project. I'll just say that. I think we all are, right? Having spent as much money on this as I have, I've only been spending the money because I have found uses in for that money in game. But
I
yeah,
mean, I'm
like
not. How could I be hopeful after everything I've just talked about? The fact that the community makes mistakes and supports when they shouldn't, the fact that the
yeah,
game's frustrating. Like, my hype continues to drop. I had hype come back for 4.8.
yeah.
And that's another
Well,
problem is you start to have hype again, something this broken comes out and that just destroys it.
hmm it might be a good point to bring up. Like I originally backed in October 2023. I played for like a week that month. Took like a year hiatus from the game. There was other games I was playing and other content I was chasing as a content creator then. And then I came back to Star Citizen in November 2024, around that time. And I've been playing ever since. It's been kind of the mainstay on my channel since then. And so I do still have a rather fresh view of the game as somebody that's come into the project late. And I probably came in at the right time, in the sense that, you know,
Things were happening
um,
when you came in, at least. Because you came in
yes.
a month, barely a month before, or no, little over a month before Pyro. Now, granted, that
Mm-hmm.
was a buggy mess when it came out. And again, people don't talk about 4.0, but 4.0 was a bad patch. I think we all accept it for what it was because it brought in so much new stuff: pyro,
Yeah.
contested zones, jump gates, that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, the worst patches we've had over the last 2 years are, sorry, 3 years: 3.18, 4.0, and now 4.8. So I agree
Yeah.
with you, and I've seen that in a lot of people, and I think it's absolutely normal. The longer you're in
Mm.
something, the more broken down you become. Stavo,
Yep.
perfect example. Viking, another
Mm-hmm.
great example. Me,
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in between because I've been here for a little 4 years more.
Mm-hmm.
I came in and I first bought the game, I think June 2021. Played for 2 weeks, dropped it, came back 6 months later, and then here we are. This game made me decide to start streaming. Um, the community is what got me to want to play MMOs again because I was a solo player. I was not interested in multiplayer for a long time. I thought they were just getting more and more toxic and disgusting and
Mm-hmm.
no and desyncy and just problematic. Um, so again, I feel like I I have a lot of things I love about this community in this game, but like I said, the longer you're in, the more broken down you get, the more shit you see, the more experience you have with who CIG really is.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Maybe it's just maybe it's just trauma bonding. Maybe that's why we're so,
That is
you
that,
know,
and it's sunken cost
we're so good
fallacy.
together. Yeah, it's like the community is amazing. Yeah, the community has been awesome. That's what really drew me into the game. People are very willing to bring you into their hangar and bring you on their ships and teach you the ways of Star Citizen. It is very much a tribe of gamers,
It's a cult.
and yeah, we'll call it a cult. It's very much a cult of gamers, like, and you guys are all freaking amazing. Is all I got to say. I've met a few bad cookies, but like that's there's very few and far between. Like everybody else seems to be really cool, down to earth, just wanting to play together, wanting to team up, grind some rep, earn some money in game. Like that aspect of it has been really cool. And that's part of why I got into streaming in the first place was to be part of a community or create a community, and make some new friends, people that would game together and have a good time. But yeah, it like it's been an amazing journey so far, and Star Citizen, I don't think there's another community around like that in the
No,
industry.
but we have issues. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, we are
Mm-hmm.
part of the problem. I said cult, and that wasn't a joke. I do believe there are some culty aspects to how we operate,
Mm-hmm.
which is things that I think people need to kind of take a look at and ask themselves: or is this really how I should be behaving? Is this really how game development should go? Is this really the best use of my time? To go back to the toxic people, CIG, and I just want to have a brief mention of this. I'm not going to go into detail.
Mm-hmm.
There has been finally some reports of people with disgusting behavior being banned, mainly for outright harassment and racism in chat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see something happening there. Do I think that's the end of the problem? No, absolutely not. But at least people are getting 3-day suspensions, and after 3 of those, you get a ban. So at least there, they seem to be making a stand. It is what it is. Hopefully, nobody gets hit in the crossfire. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to say disgusting stuff in chat, you really should expect to get banned. I've seen it very rarely. There's one instance that I remember where even I was like screenshotting the screen, going on to the issue cancel, like getting ready to report this guy, and then 5 other
Yeah.
people in chat was like, "Don't worry, we just did it," and I'm like, "Cool, I'm gonna save all this stuff just in case." But like, it's been very rare. So overall, the community is a very good and wholesome community. The problem is, I think, with the trauma bonding, with the it's early access, bro. It's alpha, bro. Don't worry, bro. Trust us, bro. On CIG's part, it's gonna work. Don't worry. Next patch. That's all insanity at this point. If you've
Mm-hmm.
been in the game for 10 years, you should not be listening to someone who's been in for 6 months. That sounds harsh, but the reality is they may make some correct points, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
but your experience is going to trump their experience because you've seen so much more. And if
Yeah.
they're having a good time, thumbs up to them. Good job, dude. I hope it continues for you. But when it starts to go wrong, don't be surprised. We told you so.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think as a community in whole, we need to come together. We need to hold CIG accountable. Um, just talking about certain ships that are in the game that have had certain features promised that still aren't. I mean, well, one big one is the Carrack. I think that's still missing some features.
a lot of
Um, and
features.
then and then just two that come to mind that are fairly recent: the Clipper, and also the Ironclad Assault. The Ironclad Assault and the Clipper are supposed to have crafting on board. We don't have that yet. We have just a little crafting machine that we bring up in our hangar, and I'm too scared to take out because I'll probably lose it. You know.
Yeah.
So, um, like, there's certain features that these ships are supposed to have, and they're selling us, and they're incomplete when they come out, and or they're broken. There'd been a little while there. There were some new ships that came out that weren't broken, but man, this last patch, there's been some issues, um, and I
Docking
would like to.
has been a huge issue.
Oh my God!
Docking has forced me to not use the ships I want to use, like the
Mm-hmm.
Perseus, and go
Yep.
back to ships that I can't stand, like the TAC.
Yeah.
Because
Because
I
you
get a
need a
hanger.
hanger.
Yeah, because I get a
Yeah.
freaking hanger. Everyone with
Yeah.
a Tiburon right now is, laughing at everyone with a Perseus because they get to use a large hanger, even though it's as big as the Perseus.
Well, they
But
haven't tried to take a Perseus on yet, but
well,
if that's the
I
case.
know people have been starting to put in, videos of like, what's better, Tiburon or Perseus? I don't care, and I know a lot of
Mm,
people probably get frustrated with me or annoyed, but I don't give two shits about ships anymore at all. I can't care about something that is just there to be the CIG cash cow and that doesn't add anything in game, never makes the game any better. If anything, it just highlights all the problems with things that don't work in the verse. And I'm not
mm,
going to open up my wallet. I told people this on stream recently, and I'm going to double down on it and explain it again. I'm no longer, until I feel like they deserve it, going to spend money on CIG for their giveaways. Because even though for me personally, I haven't spent a dime in the game in over a year, I'm still a
mm,
part of the problem by funding my giveaways through CIG. So from now on, everyone, expect Steam gift cards, Amazon gift cards, and when CIG does something good, we'll do a CIG giveaway. If when CIG continues to do bad, we're not going to do any more giveaways with them. And I'm
I'm
sorry that may upset some of you, may send some of you to other channels. Totally okay with that. There are people in the partner program who are great people. I'm going to shout out
mm,
Sweaty. He's a fantastic human being. If you're looking
yeah.
for somebody who has giveaways given to them from CIG and who's just a good human being and you can have fun being in their room, go check out Sweaty. I'm going to give him a shout out right now, but
Hmm.
don't
Go check him out. He's really an amazing guy. He's wholesome and he's just get in there, watch his streams. He's having a good time. Talking about life and stuff like that. Just an all around good person. So if you want to get in on CIG giveaways, I get over there, give him some love. You're gonna enjoy yourself over there.
He's a
Go
good man.
follow him, please. Yeah.
Now, again,
I wanted to add to your giveaway stuff, and just your overall sentiment, and with ships and stuff. And I'll tell you, recently I've come to the same conclusion. I am doing a giveaway on my channel, but it's probably the last one that I'm going to do that's Star Citizen related. And much like you, moving forward, it'll be like a Steam gift card until Star Citizen starts to improve, and I see them actually work to squash bugs and improve the overall quality of life of the game for players, and start respecting our time and understand that, look, while you are making an MMO, these things need to be fun, and progress needs to come at a fairly consistent rate and not set you back. Um, so, and Sigillian, I don't really agree with that comment, because we do have a tangible product in front of us, but we do need to hold them accountable so the project can continue to progress and get better, rather than just disrespect us as
he's trolling you, by the way.
we,
Um,
yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I don't quite agree with that sentiment, and people
no,
throw
and
it
you and
around way
I
too much.
briefly talked about it. By
Yeah,
by definition, Star Citizen is not a scam, but
yeah.
there's so many other problems with it. Now, it's kind of become a tradition on the podcast for the last part of it. We're going to talk about Squadron 42. Woo! The only reason why I bring up Squadron 42 really this time is because this morning we got an article by Variety. And at the same time they were mentioning the $1 billion mark, they also were talking about Squadron and some words that our Lord and Savior, Chris Roberts, had to share with them. So we're going to read that here in a second. I forgot to hit record. As Star Citizen hits 1 billion in lifetime funding, Cloud Imperium chiefs reveal fan impact. Squadron 42 closing stages game update exclusive.
Ooh, exclusive interviews? Exclusive what?
Exclusive, who knows?
Access to
Access
the
to
Odin?
of text messages from Chris Roberts. I don't know.
Oh, snap. Pictures next to his pool. I got it.
Cloud Imperium Games marked a major milestone Sunday, May 24th, 2026. As the game developer's open world massively multiplayer online space game Star Citizen has reached 1 billion in lifetime funding before formalizing a release date for its full commercial break. It's an impressive benchmark for any title, but especially for a game 14 years in the making that was originally targeting a 2014 release. That's as bad as they get. That's as much of a jab as they give them. From Chris Roberts, the mastermind of the hit 90s PC game Wing Commander, because yes, he hasn't had a hit since then. Star Citizen has been in the works since 2012, when actually it's a little sooner than that, but whatever. When Roberts co-founded Clown Imperium Games alongside wife Sandy Roberts, the young studio decided to forego traditional funding from a publisher or private backers. Not true, they had private backing, and instead reached out to the larger gaming community through a crowdfunding campaign. Actually, I take that back. They got the private funding after the crowdfunding initiative showed interest in the game. Chris Roberts built a prototype for Star Citizen, and Sandy Roberts orchestrated a campaign that showed off the development. The end result was a quickly crashed website and 6.2 million raised by players eager to see the game come to fruition. We're still waiting. Since then, Cloud Imperium has slowly but surely been developing Star Citizen. I think they might have taken out the surely bit. But anyways, I'm going to stop commenting. I'm an asshole. In front of fans through weekly live streams and blogs, regular roadmap releases, and, most recently, early playable access for the continuously updated alpha build. What the hell? Weekly and most recently, early playable access for the continuously updated alpha build. Don't call me Shirley, but am I?
I'm trying to make sense of that. Fans through weekly live streams and blogs, regular roadmap releases, and most recently, early playable access for continuously updated alpha build.
Are we considering 2016 recent? Is that it? Because that's the first Hangar release, right? Or is that 2014? No, the Hangar release was.
Yeah, I don't understand the early playable access. I mean, it is continuously updated alpha build that we do get to play, but it's not a most recently sort of thing.
No, I think this again. Variety being variety. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, words are hard.
Words are hard. And Cloud Imperium says that every dollar raised by the developer, which has now reached that above mentioned $1 billion mark, has been reinvested directly into development and operations on Star Citizen and Cloud's latest project, Squadron 42. Star Citizen is not a recently playable early access. Squadron 42 is not their latest project. Well, it might be the first one to come out of fully, but again, paid advertising. All right,
the way they have this worded is like they got backing for Star Citizen, and Star Citizen has been their project, and recently they've been able to play it, and they've been able to raise $1 billion, and now it sounds like they've decided to make Squadron 42.
So there's another thing that was originally what I was going to react to, and then I reread that last line. I was like, wait, my brain needs time to process. And Stavo mentions it. Not every single dollar was spent towards making the game. The Orison break room or whatever, this super fancy office they have, that serves zero purpose towards making a better game in any way, shape, or form. Having more comfortable guys isn't necessarily going to create the best results.
How much did that Bengal model cost?
I don't want to know. Moving on before I get angry. I think that the goal that everybody is supporting is pretty ambitious and huge, but also a pretty exciting one. Yes, that's why we're here. Chris Roberts told Variety, a lot of people want to spend time adventuring out in the virtual world of something that's like Star Citizen. And that's really what's helped get us to where we are, because the dream's so big that it's something that you don't get in any other game. Yeah, probably for a reason. It's not something that would be able to be done under a traditional big game publisher funding it or private equity. I absolutely agree with that statement. We can dissect it a little later, but
I just wanted to add to that because, you made a little comment in there, and it's like, okay, so are you thinking it's too ambitious of a project, or do you think they can't do the things that they would like to do,
So any
or they
traditional
can't be done
publisher.
in the gaming industry?
So the reason why he says that is because Chris Roberts came up against this with Freelancer, right? When
Hmm.
Microsoft came in and bought out Freelancer, they fired him because he was incapable of finishing the game. Scope creep was too much. He kept trying to elaborate on things, and at some points, Microsoft was like, "Look, we're done with you. You're gone. We're gonna have somebody come in, finish off the game, and we'll release it."
Hmm.
Publishers have deadlines because their money
Yes.
is not infinite, right? They've invested X amount. They want the game to come out at this date because they need it to. Now, you can argue whether that's good or bad. It really kind of depends on what side you're on. If you're defending the developers, you want to give them as much time to get a game ready. If you're the publisher, you want them to get the game out as fast as possible. It's just two interests that are conflicting. That's it. So
Yeah.
when he says that this wouldn't have been possible in a traditional way, he's 100% absolutely right. The conversation for me then becomes whether this is actually good or bad. Right now, obviously, with everything we've said, I'm going to say it's bad because, well, there's no real consequences for CIG for doing things the way they've been doing it. There's not a publisher
So
behind going, if you don't fix this shit, we're going to get rid of you,
yeah.
which
Um,
can create good things.
my thoughts around it right now are, we're funding this dude's dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has this idea of what this game can be. He's been fired in the past because of scope creep. I think where we are at in the gaming industry, I personally have been upset with publishers pushing projects out that weren't finished and they came out bugged or missing stuff, that prior titles had had. No problem, like Battlefield being one of them. But
KSP2.
um, like we've seen it time and time again. Like, why did they release this now? It's completely broken, or it's missing this, this, and this, or And so, like, okay, so now we've gone the other direction where okay, there's no official release date, but we continue to fund this. How long is it going to take? There's no deadline or pressure, and we're not even providing that pressure. We're rewarding them for even their mistakes. So
Absolutely.
again, I've
So
said it a couple times. The
I'll
community, guys, we need to start realizing this.
I'll relate it back to what I do in the real world. I'm a producer. I work on film, commercials, and stuff like that. If you let a director or a creative take his time, he will freaking take his time, right? If
Hmm.
you let them, they will take all the time in the world and come up with every single imaginable reason why they must have this extra time and money to do this thing that'll make it incredible. At some point, my job is to be like, enough is enough. We can give you this, use this to make the best thing possible, and just get it done, right? Because
Hmm.
money is not infinite, right? Okay, let's go back to the. But basically, with that, what I was going to say is, you can't let creatives run everything because otherwise nothing ever comes out. If we can get pizza, and if I can finally drink a whiskey at a bar in the game, then yes, we can have soft serve, and then we can have ice cream battles and ships. It'll be great.
Yeah, food fight.
Food fight. Oh my god, let us do that. Okay.
uh,
All right, back to the article. They usually wouldn't have the time and the patience, but with what we're doing, people just want to see the biggest, best world possible, and they love the idea of the dream. He knows, he understands why we're here, and he keeps selling us on that. And as we're going along and they see more of it, it reinforces itself basically. Well, not really. I fully believe that we've still got a long time, even after we've got what we call 1.0 out, and we're not considering an alpha anymore. Hold up. Let me finish the sentence, and then we're going to talk
considered.
about that. Yeah, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up. That will be adding and building on the universe and the world, and it will be a place for people to adventure together and meet up together and have fun together. Okay, not too different than, say, World of Warcraft, which has been going on for 20 plus years. There's a reason why WoW is what, 23 years now? Because it came out in 2003. There's a
Hmm.
reason for that. It's because they actually made a good game to begin with. And it wasn't about graphics, it was about fun and content. And
Yeah.
then the graphics got better. So to go back to dissecting this part of what he says, I fully believe that we've still got a lot of time even after we've got what we call 1.0 out, and we're not considering an alpha anymore, and we're not considered an alpha anymore.
Yeah, I want to say it's considered an alpha, but considering an alpha, I mean, they're already an alpha, is what they say. So, what I'm concerned about here is we know it comes after alphas, right?
Betas.
Beta. Are they considering that 1.0 is beta? Because in my thought, if a game is 1.0, that is
Okay, so you're reading it the same way
yours.
I am.
Yeah.
As even with 1.0, we won't be out of alpha or whatever. Like,
Y-
really, dude?
Yeah, well, after we've got what we call 1.0 out, and we're not considering or considered an alpha anymore, which means 1.0 is feature full. You would say you're complete at that point, and you know, after alpha, you're in beta mode. Everything's there. You're just hashing out all the issues, right? You're doing balancing. You're hashing out bugs. You're not adding features. So
You can add content in
it
beta, but you shouldn't be adding features.
exactly. You can add content, but you cannot after alpha,
Well, it's
beta
not that
is
you
hashing out the
cannot.
game, and 1.0 is this is our product. Yes, we're going to add to it, maybe more content in the future, but 1.0 is a feature full, ready to go package.
No, there are plenty of games that down the line decide to add a new feature. That's fine, and that plenty of games do it. Like
Yeah,
Warframe is a great example. To use his example, World of Warcraft, every big patch, a new feature might come out. Sorry, new expansion, a feature might come out, and then this statement is just a little odd. And Lord Roberts, we'd like some clarification on what you consider to be a 1.0. Is that your beta? Is that actually anyways? It's a
yeah,
little odd.
that concerns me personally.
I think the Odin should have an Olympic-sized swimming pool for the soldiers' like physical condition, and just I think we should have arcades, workable arcades in the break room of the Odin. Same in the
Where we can
Javelin and
play
the Idris.
freelance. We can play freelancer.
Play Wing Commander.
Yeah, we commander in game. Uh, well, I mean, it's got a conference hall. It's got a
Uh,
bureaucratic hall.
that'll be great. Okay, let's finish this up.
Yeah.
We did a lot of Ask Me Anything Reddits in the beginning and a lot of forums, and they voted on things. Sandy Roberts said, and then we did a lot of shows showing the open development and the real nitty gritty of how things are made. It's not the most exciting topic sometimes, but because things don't move fast in video games. But I think that's been really exciting and interesting for the community, and we also involve them a lot. A lot of the developers, they go to these bar citizens. So we have 300 plus of those a year, and those are events organized by the community. And they're all over the world. I just came back from one in Asia that had a couple thousand people. It's all set up by the fans, so I think that's something that's been really special with this game. That we have people who've just been with us a really long time. Sometimes I get in and play with them. Bullshit. Calling bullshit. Immediately fucking calling bullshit. I've made quite a few friends around the world through the game. And again, gonna call bullshit on that one. Star Citizen maker Cloud and Killian Games is among the largest indie game developers in the world with more than 1,000 employees across studios in Manchester, Austin, Frankfurt, and Montreal. And cumulative revenue approaching 1 billion. Well, no. Okay, so they wrote this article like weeks ago. But not all of that is in the name of still unfinished Star Citizen, as Chris and Sandy Roberts' team have been simultaneously working on Squadron 42, an ambitious single player game with a star studded cast including Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, Gillian Anderson, Ben Mendelsohn, and Henry Cavill.
You make
Per
okay. If people are listening to this, they're gonna think that they spelt those all wrong. So for the listeners' sake, they are spelled correctly. But I like the
but your
emphasis on
host
the
is an
names he's
idiot
putting.
and likes to mispronounce things. So,
Sir,
best of
that's
luck.
idiote. That's idiote. Oh, all right. Okay. So they keep hashing it on these big name actors.
Look, and they forgot one of the biggest ones, which is Daniel Day Lewis. And I mean, I love everybody in this list, but I think Daniel Day-Lewis is above a Ben Mendelsohn. But whatever. Henry. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Henry D. Cavill.
It's all
I
this
love Henry
paid
Cavill.
promotion. I love him too.
One of us. All right.
Gary Oldman is also one of my faves. I love him. He's so good.
Amazing actor.
Leon, he's one of the best bad guys ever in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Was it called The Professional here? And it was Leon in France. I forget. But anyways,
It was the professional here, yes. But Leon, you said Leon, and
you know the character, yeah.
Yes.
Per the most recent description for the project, Squadron 42 is a cinematic single-player game set in the same universe as Star Citizen. In the narrative-driven space epic Squadron 42, players become a central character, experiencing a carefully crafted story brought to life through full performance capture and cinematic production on a blockbuster scale.
You know what grabs me most out of all that?
What?
Cinematic single-player game. We're just going to be sitting in cinematics.
No. Don't think mixtape, okay? It's not going to be mixtape, all right? It will. If it is, then I want my money back. But it's not going to be mixtape, right? We're going to put that out of our mind. But hey, if it is mixtape, maybe it'll get a 10 out of 10 too. Anyways.
Yep.
Moving on. It's on the topic of Squadron 42 development, where Cloud Imperium becomes tight-lipped, and the transparency the team is known for is swapped out for a classic veil of video game production secrecy. All right, I'm being annoying with my overly dramatic. I'm annoying myself now. Sorry. Squadron is a little different because we are developing that more traditionally, where that's behind the closed doors, but a lot of the game system and the technology is in Star Citizen, Chris Roberts said. So Star Citizen is a nice way that we can say, okay, that works, that doesn't work. Oh, this works under stress. This doesn't work on scale. Sorry, it's really hard to read this with a straight face. I'm trying.
Hold on.
I'm trying. I'm sorry.
So, Star Citizen is a nice way that we can say, okay, that works.
But does it?
Sorry. It's really hard not to
Where's
read
the
that.
meme of
It's
the
just
guy? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Fucking John Cena. Oh my god. All right, sorry. Okay. Continue on, sir. Oh my god.
Okay.
Put your biases and everything aside. Read words.
And then, sorry, give me a second. Get some water.
This is great. I love it.
Hey, this is actually one of the funniest pieces I've ever read.
It was written as satire.
I think so. No, this is clearly an intern that wrote it, sent it over to Variety, and they published it. No, I'm kidding. Actually, okay. And then Squadron itself is a much more authored single-player story as opposed to being multiplayer. Because it's literally just an authored single-player story, the fidelity and the attention to detail to the story and the environments and the progress we do, it's always going to be higher than it can be in Star Citizen. Some big words. Some big words for you there, Lord Roberts. Star Citizen is wide and expansive, and you go to different star systems and planets, and so you can't carefully craft every single second of the experience, but you can in Squadron. Robert's goal is to bring the seamlessness of existing in the verse that this team has focused on creating in the multiplayer Star Citizen project to Squadron 42. And fans should see what he means sooner rather than later, as Robert says the team is in the closing stages of the game. Well, we also heard it was feature complete 3 years ago. So, we'll see. But my pitch is, basically, you're the star of this huge blockbuster event movie, and it seamlessly goes between the storytelling and the cinematic moments to you being in control and first person and pass it moving through the story. What? Anyways, this is where editors used to be nice because they would proofread, and if it didn't make sense, they'd be like, "Hey, this doesn't make sense." But no.
What? Well, okay. Is it nice that this might be a sign they didn't use AI, or is it bad because they used AI?
Both. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of past it, it's past it. Okay, cool. All right.
uh, moving through the story, and it has a level of detail and scale and the scope that you don't normally see in a game. Robert said. It feels pretty epic. I'm actually very excited for when people, because we're right at the end now, stop saying that. We're in the closing stages and it's coming together really well. I've been very lucky as a creative because I've had the ability to take the time and have the funding to really do it. James Cameron had that when he was doing his avatars. This is sort of like my version of it in games where I've had the time, I've been able to spend the time and get the tech. And so the vision that's being delivered is really my imagination, my vision from the beginning. And that's not something you always get the chance to do. So I'm pretty grateful for that. And I'm also very excited for people on the outside to experience. I really like actually this last part when he says, it
Mm-hmm.
is at least he's not completely, at least he understands the reality. He knows not everybody gets this chance. It's a special chance. Now, do I think he could maybe show us a little bit more gratitude? Yeah, but then again, what would that look like? So I'm not even going to really entertain that idea. I don't think it's necessarily warranted. Maybe a thank you to us once in a while would be nice, but it is nice at least to see that in public when he's discussing this with the media, he understands the part we played in allowing him to really have that vision. And I'm going to tell you now, as someone
Mm-hmm.
who works with directors and creatives all the time, it's very rare that any of them get to actually fully have their vision. There's always some sort of constraint, whether it be time or money or just pure logistics. I've had some really crazy requests where I'm like, if you don't turn around, I'm going to hit you. like, it's like it's just like the most incredible, unrealistic, impossible things because creatives live in a different reality from us. Okay, that's just how it is most of the time. They're good people. They just have this disconnect from what is truly doable. But then again, I don't hold that against them. That's not their job. That's my job. Is to make their vision come to life as best I can, or give them the tools to make that vision come to life as best I can. So we, in this sense, are kind of like the people who propped him up to be like, you have a vision. We're very curious to see what it is. Here you go. Where I'm obviously going to be a little bit upset is, well, if you're truly that grateful, can we maybe have something that's a little bit more thoughtful towards us in terms of a playable experience, Star Citizen? Just saying. But that's again not Squadron, so we'll have to see what happens with Squadron. But a lot of times in this, before we got to that last part, it's almost done. It's nearly there. Like the problem is every time they set a deadline or they set an expectation, they don't meet it. Well, it makes for the next time you don't trust them a little bit less. And no, I'm not saying that they gave us a deadline when he said, or a date when he said that it was feature complete, but they had in the past. 2016 was one of them, and
They said at the end of last year.
they said at the end of last year that would be this year. That
Mhm.
last sitcom they refused to talk about it. This sitcom has been canceled. But anyways, that's besides the point. I just
Yep.
I haven't seen anything concrete, and I hope he's not just trying to hype it up. And this is actually going to come to fruition because, and I'm going to touch on this after. I went through and looked at the big dates in gaming that are coming up when you could make an announcement, and it's a little worrying.
That's why I was looking at my watch earlier. We're at the end of May.
Yeah.
We're entering the middle of the year, right? So
Yep.
the
Yep.
first half of the year, we're coming close to the end of.
Yep.
So
Okay. While no release date has been set for Squadron, Sandy Roberts confirms they're imminently closer to launch. That, again, the wording, imminently
I would like to
closer.
mention 4 times in this article, like at least last couple of paragraphs, we've heard
Soon
it's
TM.
close to finish. Yeah.
We've gotten some soon TM. At the
Hmm.
moment, the heat is being turned up for Squadron. That's a difficult thing to deal with in terms of we are so close to the community. Again, okay. Sandy Roberts said, and with all of these events that we do, it's difficult. As we get imminently closer to launch, and I say that in game development language, it's very hard to keep it under wraps. So the marketing campaign for Squadron is quite different from Star Citizen. It's going to go for a broader audience, but I'm excited for the community to get on board, and they're very keen to because they've been with us for so long on Star Citizen, and those who have paid for the game would like to see it come out, and they really feel like they're part of it, which they are. So for them to sing from the rafters that Squadron is launching, I think is going to be an exciting moment. All right. I know we have thoughts, because how the fuck do you not have thoughts after that? I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to talk about the major gaming events still to come this year, because some of the biggest ones have just passed. GamerCon just passed. Skill Up, Level Up passed. They were there, but they didn't make an announcement. But they had these big booths where people could play. Some of you may have seen that a bigger streamer named SFand actually went by the booth and checked it out and played a little bit. I think he did a video on it. You can go find that on YouTube. But the major showcases and digital events that are coming are, first, biggest one, Summer Game Fest. That starts June 5th. Then there's a Story Rich showcase. That's from the 5th to the 7th. These are all kind of like together. June 6th, Future Games Show Summer Showcase. This one is something to keep an eye out for. That's June 6th. There could potentially be something there. Star Citizen related. I don't know. They said they wanted to hit a bigger audience, and right now they're not. So I'm just kind of looking at.
Does anybody have any information on like who is going to be at that event? Because usually you gotta, sign up to be there. So
I have to go look at that
insider information.
I was just looking at the next potential opportunities for them to have some sort of big announcement for the rest of this year, because June, 6 months after June is November.
I'm kind of putting that out to the audience. Does anybody have any information on that?
Oh, yeah.
Like if Cloud Imperium Games has signed up to be at one of these events.
Then we have PC Gaming Showcase, June 6th. But again, these are all kind of intertwined and tied together. Xbox Games, June 7th. And then the final one of the year, the biggest one, is the Game Awards. And that's December 10th. So here's what, if we're talking about Squadron and a potential announcement, I think something might come at the end of Defense Con. I think it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think because, June 6th is what, 2 weeks away? It's very likely that they might try and have some sort of announcement there. They may not go, but they could have trailer play or, something.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make with this is if they're trying to go for a more traditional marketing window, that window is getting real small. And more importantly, that window would put the release right at about the same time as GTA 6. Now, again, I know a lot of you are like, well, a lot of people who play PC don't have consoles. Yes, you're right. You would be right, but a lot of do. And a lot may decide to buy one for said game. And I'm not saying that the entire PC player game base is going to disappear overnight for GTA 6. Not at all. I think you'll have somewhat of a drain. But the most important part to think about is that GTA 6 is a pop culture event at this point. It is going to suck up all of the media attention. It's going to suck up a lot of content creators' attention. So if you were hoping for people to push your game when it came out, I think that's a bad window because of GTA 6. Now, even if GTA 6 is a giant steaming turd, they'll still be talking about it because they're either going to be talking about it for a while because it's great or because it's terrible and everything in between. So I just want to put that out there, that Squadron 42's window is looking kind of tight, and I've heard people say, yes, but at the bar citizens they're letting go of these little pieces of information, but it's nothing. That means nothing until we actually get them going. Said date, it out. And then they'll probably push it back. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That was easy. It's a quick jab. I'm done. Moving on. But so I'd say right now our best bet to see something from them is end of Defense Con or Summer Games Fest, PC Games Showcase, Future Games Show, Summer Showcase, whatever the hell these things named are. Those are the big ones left. And then after that, it's pretty sparse. So they could do something untraditional, and there's been some arguments put forward in other content creators' videos on YouTube that I actually really have thought about. One of them being giving people time to talk about your game can also have a negative effect. So, games that kind of came out of nowhere that did great. For example, Elden Ring. No one was really expecting that. It kind of just came out and it was just a massive hit. So maybe they're trying to recreate that a little bit more, of just go off of that initial hype of people like, oh shit, this game's out. Oh shit, this is great. And then start to talk
Hmm.
about it, make a lot of noise. And if anyone's watched me for a while now, you'll know that I've secretly hoped that at the end of every sitcon, Lord Roberts comes onto stage holding his mic and he does his whole spiel and thank you and the future is fantastic, and then he goes, oh, by the way, Squadron 42 is ready, and then drops mic, walks off stage, people go crazy, tears, joy, no, like
Flowers fall from the
flowers,
ceiling.
white doves, no, but like,
uh,
but I think that obviously, well, that's not this year because sitcom's been canceled. I think sitcom being canceled is a big weird one, because whether or not you thought there could be something Squadron 42 related there at all, it means that they have nothing to tell us about next year in Star Citizen. And then to go off of what was talked about in the article, and this is something that people also have to take into account: community driven bar citizens. So the community gets together and helps fund these things so that essentially Star Citizen gets pushed by us way more than they push it themselves. Like, anyways, I'm not a big fan of that. I've been to a Bar Citizen myself. I had fun. It was cool to see some people. I got to meet a couple people from CIG. I got to meet some fellow streamers, which was the real fun part. And I got to meet people who used to hang out in my community a lot, who's responsible for sort of the artwork, like Crab and stuff like that. But really, those events are more for the community than anything else, and I think that would be a marketing waste, to make an announcement at one of those, because they're not for the wider gamer media or gamer world. It's very niche. I mean, not only do most citizens not go to Bar Citizens, but it's really the most dedicated, who are typically very very positive about Star Citizen. So that's kind of where Squadron 42's at. We got a variety article. I'll drop the link for you all in chat if you want to read it yourselves. Not too much information in there other than a lot of soon TM and it's going to be great. Just pretty typical communications.
one thing I do want to mention about the marketing and stuff that I've noticed, and just my opinion about things in general, is I've seen certain games spend lots of money on marketing and that game be released incomplete and just be absolute garbage. But we've also seen these other games that come out with literally next to no marketing, and they're good, and the word gets passed around through the gaming community and word gets out. And I prefer that method.
So there's something that.
Just
Sorry,
just because I want developers to work on creating new and fun experiences. Like, go create a fun game and the people will come. You don't have to market to the moon just to sell your game. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you create a fun game, word's going to get out and it's going to be passed amongst the community. And I don't know if it's like that in the filming industry, but like, in interactive and entertainment, like video games are, like, there's a whole community around it. It's word's going to get out.
So
That's just my experience in it, as somebody who's been a consumer in this market for so long.
in the film industry, it is a little different. Traditional means of communication are still important, like
Hmm.
TV, news, publishing, like Variety, because whereas gaming is a little bit younger of a crowd, yes, there are 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and 80-year-olds who play video games. Those are more rare, but
Hmm.
for film, you have a wider range of every single population, like going to see movies. So
Hmm.
It's a little bit, but it's similar. So Markiplier made his movie, and it was a resounding success, and he was a little bit less traditional in how he did it. He still had a
Hmm.
distributor, and the marketing typically gets done by the distributor. But because he's such a big YouTuber, just word of mouth through his stream was promotion to also get enough people to go. So there's some examples and exceptions, but when it comes to gaming, I think positive reaction breeds positive reaction, right? And you mentioned, certain games coming out with positive reviews from creators and then coming into people's hands, and you don't get the same feeling. You have to
Hmm.
remember paid content, right?
Yep.
Normally, as content creators, we have to divulge to you if we are being paid to push a narrative. If someone pays for this podcast, for example, I would have to disclose this to you because otherwise that's illegal. Unfortunately, there are more and more cases of this. And if you want an example, please go check out the Blue Drake, um, one of the guys responsible for the game Operation Harsh Doorstep. Um, he a company, I won't say who because I don't remember the name honestly, reached out to him to do a paid review or paid promotion of the game, but they wanted to pay him extra not to disclose it. That's a no. That's illegal. If you
Yeah.
ever come across a content creator who does that and gets caught, forget them because they're gonna just lie to you and they're getting paid to lie to you. So
Hmm.
that is also something to take into account. Um, it's same with there was a fantastic South Park episode on all of this, um, and it's sponsored content, and sometimes you think you're reading a legit article, but it has purely been paid for by said company that is being written about, right? So there's that as well. Basically, where I'm going with this is it's hard to kind of, especially with people who have early access to things, you know, like one of the reasons why entertainment media is taking a dump is no one believes the reviewers anymore. No one listens to what um, movie critics have to say because, well, they'll say nice things to continue to have access. It's the same thing in the gaming media. Uh,
Hmm.
they say nice things so that they can have access by the bigger studios. So it's not technically they're being paid, but there's a clear incentive for them to be positive. And what I like and what I've seen more and more is people just don't care. They've figured it out. They're over it. They're not interested. They've seen the disconnect between what they're told and reality just be insane too many times. So no, I think people are waking up to that and they're over it.
Hmm.
So will CIG choose to go the more traditional route? Well, if they are, that window is getting smaller and that window is going to start pushing it into next year. If they're going for less traditional routes, there's obviously still very much a chance that it'll come out sooner than later. But again, this is all hearsay and assumption and best guess because they haven't set a date. They haven't made an announcement to make an announcement like this day come check us out, we got something big to say. We haven't seen that yet, at least I haven't. If somebody else has, please share it with me, because here's the kicker. As critical of Star Citizen as I am, I can't wait to play Squadron 42. I can't wait. I've wanted to since I got into this project. I didn't back Star Citizen because of Squadron, but as soon as I discovered what Squadron was, I've wanted that more than a 1.0 Star Citizen, if I'm being honest. I love space operas. I love space epics, whatever you want to call it. A huge fan of Mass Effect. I have high hopes that our Lord and Savior Roberts will be able to deliver something that is good. Will it be as good as we hope? No, but unfortunately, they have something playing against them, and that's that we've been waiting for it for so long. And of course, expectations are going to be, relative to how long you had to wait for it to a certain extent. So I do hope it comes out soon. I hope that it's good. And even if they were to be like, hey, does anyone want to be in a beta? I'd be the first to raise my hand. And I have zero interest in testing Star Citizen because we're always testing in live. But if anyone asked, hey, do you want to test out Squadron? I'd be like, fuck yes. I'll sign any NDA. Just let me play that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if we'll get 42 this year.
I'm skeptical. I mean, it's May already, but I'm also hopeful because SitCon being canceled. Um, so I'm wondering if it's going to be around that time, which is why they're not going to do SitCon.
Okay, let's think about that for a second. Their biggest marketing event of the year. If they released around that time, why wouldn't they keep it?
To me, they wouldn't keep it because they're going to have another announcement around that, or that the game's going to come out around that.
So you wouldn't have another marketing event to celebrate the game's release or to release the game? I mean,
It
from a
might
marketing
be.
standpoint, it doesn't make that much sense. For me, at least, and I think, and for the other people I've talked to about it outside of the
Mhm.
game who have no dogs in the game, they don't get it.
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, maybe they're going to release a date that's going to be around then, and they don't want that distraction. Look, I'm not in marketing, but I'm thinking, like, it might be around that time, and they're not trying to give anything away. If that makes sense.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mean honestly I don't really agree with that.
You don't have to agree with it. I'm not a
But I hear
marketer, all
you. But
right?
I hear you. And then but the thing is, you're not the
Yeah.
first one to voice that opinion. I
Mm,
think, you know, I'm gonna preface it this way. I hope that you're right, but I think that might be a little naive because of how marketing typically works, of what would be best to double down on the success of the game. Let's say it releases a week before SitCon, then boom, at SitCon you want to have every single fucking actor that was in there, the creative director, the people who made the game work. You want to have a huge celebration around it. You want to raise funds. You want to sell the game. In a traditional marketing world, that's what you would do. So
mm-hmm.
I think there's probably more of an argument that the game might come out sooner than then. And I mean like 2-3 months before then. I think, again, going back to what I was saying, it makes more sense to me personally to see the game come out here in June than to
Yeah.
wait till October or November.
So, my other aspect of it is my question is I'm genuinely curious. Has Star Citizen been marketed like other games to begin with?
Well, no, not really.
So,
And
are they following traditional patterns?
well, so
And
I'm
maybe.
going off of what Sandy has said in past interviews and stuff like that, and I think for next week this might be interesting to dive into a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and kind of go over some stuff that specifically I'll choose out moments that like where they've and Space Tomato and all of them do this all the time. They do a great job at it. Of where they've said specific things in interviews or at sitcoms or in ISCs and SCL stuff like that. Because Sandy has said that she has a plan, and she's always made it seem like that plan was a bit more traditional, and that she's been waiting 10 years to implement said plan. Um, I hope that she has adjusted said plan, and it's not the same as what it was 10 years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
um, she has stated, and she's more of the marketing leader in at the company, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, she she hasn't she hasn't openly said I'm going to do things completely differently. She's actually been a bit more traditional. It's like, I have a plan, we have a structured plan on how we want to release this and how we want to communicate this. And so for me, that tends to make me think that it's a bit more traditional. And so you would go through the outlets. And if you look at what's happened in the last 6 months, there's been pieces of that. They went on to the news channel in Australia, had a little bit of an interview. Then they went to Level Up, and then after that, they went and had an interview with Skill Up. And so they've been keeping themselves in the mainstream media for gaming a little bit more. Their name is definitely coming up a bit more often, but there hasn't been anything concrete from that, or like a clear path to we're building up hype to get to
Mm.
this moment. Because
Yeah.
what most people who understand marketing or have worked in marketing, who or like me who are in the entertainment industry, the way I would have seen it was the perfect path was already kind of drawn out. You could make an announcement essentially 6 months before a sitcom or another event, be like, on this date we're going to do something big, and on leading up to that date, you increase the exposure, you increase the articles, you increase the interviews, you build up um, just interest around your product and what you're saying, to then have it all culminate on a date of either announcing or releasing.
Yeah.
So, and that's where it's been very timid on their part. And so that's why I say, look, guys, like I'm willing to hear all the crazy theories in the world, but the reason why people do marketing that way is because it typically works. Now, yes, there are the opposite examples. Elden Ring being a great one. What's another game that kind of came out that was out of nowhere? This is the opposite example.
Arc Raiders wasn't
Well, no, Arc Raiders
marketed
was
heavily.
expected because they had really successful beta playtests, and so they were building up hype through that.
Yes. I was in their May beta, but like when I released clips and stuff, there was still so many people that hadn't like known what the game was, and it was pretty close to release from then. I think it came out in October that year, so that was a 5 month window. But even right before release, even doing their server slam, there were people still wondering what the game was. So in a sense of marketing, like compared to like a behemoth, and this is probably unfair, but a behemoth like Call of Duty,
Hmm.
like nobody had a clue that Arc Raiders was coming out and or who the studio was at that point in time.
So, but the game was good, and so
Yes.
positive reaction. People see that it's good. It no longer
Mhm.
becomes, yeah, but is he paid to say it's good? No, they can see it. They can see it on streams. They can see they can go try it out for themselves, right? And the game
Yep.
price was affordable, so there wasn't that hurdle too. I think they did a lot of things really well around Arc Raiders. Helldivers 2 was another example. Nobody really was
Mhm.
expecting that, cared about it too much. It came out with such a huge hit. But again,
Mhm.
that example is for games that were good on release.
Yes.
And again, I don't want to be a negative Nancy here, but CIG's track record on releasing anything has has not been spotless. So
Mhm.
I and the reason why I say that is because if you're trying to have as much of a sure thing as possible, you want to give yourselves those tools. And having, building interest, interviews, game war or gaming events where you can give something, a teaser trailer, anything. We've
Yep.
had zero communication for a long time, other than "Don't worry, bros, it's coming soon. Trust us." So, all right, we have to do one last Bezos moment because we can't stop talking. And what we're gonna do when we come back from that is we'll take some questions. If you guys have any questions, now's the time. Get them ready because in 5 minutes we're gonna take some questions, and after that we'll say our goodbyes and we'll get ready for next week's pod. Alrighty, now, did you want to add anything on Squadron or the Variety article before we take questions from the peoples?
And Star Citizen because it was built off of a single player uh, engine, game engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I personally think that's a lot easier of an environment to curate, and I do like the sound of his vision, what he's talking about, and being put along this path and explaining the story and stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a unique experience. It will be very cinematic, and I think it'll have its place within the game industry.
No, I hear you. I I really want Squadron to be good. One of the reasons why I always thought there was a really strong chance that Squadron would be a solid product is people like Daniel Day Lewis
Mm-hmm.
don't accept projects they don't like. He has very rarely, if ever, done anything purely for a paycheck. One of my favorite stories about actors is Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio tells this story. about gangs in New York, and he
Mm-hmm.
said Scorsese, because that was Scorsese, right? Was it Scorsese or Coppola? Crap. Uh,
I think it was Scorsese.
Scorsese approached Leo and was like, I think somebody like Daniel Day Lewis would be good for the role, and he's like, I want you to go convince him, because at that time, a lot of people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize this. Daniel Day Lewis was essentially retired from filmmaking, and he was making shoes somewhere, I forget where. He was just making shoes, just being a cobbler, and
Mm-hmm.
Leo goes out to see him, and you'll have to go. I'll find it and I'll drop it in the Discord because Leonardo obviously explains it a hell of a lot better than I do. But he goes to
I,
see him. You've seen it,
I've heard this story, but yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing. So
so
continue. Right.
he goes to meet him. Daniel Day was a man of few words. Leo, he opens the door for Leo and he says, can we talk? And he says, sure. So they decide to go for a walk, and I think they're in New York or something, and they go to Central Park or wherever they are, and they just talk. They walk in silence for a while, and then eventually come up to this bench, and Daniel Day Lewis says, let's have a seat here. And they start talking, and essentially, Leo just says, we want you to do this role, and I will always remember this response because it shows a lot of humility. And Daniel Day Lewis says, I'm afraid I would let Scorsese down.
Mm-hmm.
And so Daniel Day Lewis has never accepted a script because he needed to. He's only ever done it because he wanted to. So it makes me think that with Squadron, there's a chance that he saw something great that had potential, and that's why he decided to do it. And from what we've seen so far in the cinematics, the teasers, and the hour and a half demo we got at SitCon 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he's prominently featured. He's number two, it looks like, to Gary Oldman, and we know that that character is very important in Squadron. So that made me hopeful for Squadron. There's a video I recently saw by another content creator on YouTube, and I'm not going to put any names out. If you know, keep it to yourself. But it was essentially a video explaining that Squadron was probably done in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
but with the influx of cash they were getting, they decided to delay it and redo it in a better engine, essentially. So,
Yeah.
and that video goes on to explain that essentially it's a good thing that they essentially lied to us about it, needing to be postponed and not being ready and soon TM, soon TM, soon TM. And
Mm-hmm.
the unrealistic, deadlines or whatever that they were giving us that they clearly had no intention of holding. Essentially, he goes on to explain that all that is a good thing. So it's a good thing they lied to us. It's a good thing that they continue to take our money while fully knowing that they were remaking the game, even though it had essentially this person put forward the case that it was already done. And they're like, yeah, but it's going to be so much better for us now. It's like, no, I'm sorry. That doesn't justify that behavior. It never justifies that behavior. Now, do I agree with you that it's probably going to be a better game now than if it released in 2016? Yeah. But I actually believe it would have been more positive for CIG to have released a game closer to when they said they would than to take another 10 years to do so. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a weird one. The cope and the hopium, and that's where I go into the whole cult thinking. I'm like, you gotta stop justifying all this shit. like, like
Yeah.
crap is crap. A turd is a turd. Just because it gets polished and sold to you as gold doesn't mean it is.
Exactly.
And we don't know that it'll be 5 minutes of gameplay every 2 hours. I doubt it. I highly doubt that it'll be like that. Again, I use the example of mixtape. I highly doubt we'll get a mixtape. Nobody wants a freaking mixtape. If you don't know what that
Yeah.
game is, go have fun watching the reviews. Don't listen to any of the games outlets because they clearly were paid to give a positive review. Um, and also, don't fall into the trap of thinking that that game is an indie because it's not. It's made by Annapurna. They have a lot of money, and the lady who runs Annapurna's father is the fifth richest man in the world, and he has bailed them out when they were going under. This is not their first game, but somebody pointed this out, and I think it's so true. Just the music licensing alone for that game is a bigger budget than probably 90% of indie projects that are out there.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you go listen to the soundtrack. It's an impressive soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
But to call that an indie
Yeah.
when you understand how licensing work is insane. But anyways, all right, it's time for questions. Does anybody have any questions, any topics they wish we had covered? Any feelings they kept to themselves until the very end that they'd like to share? Any insight or lack of insight? No,
Yeah. Yeah, of course, anything we missed, right? So,
yeah, and while people potentially gather their thoughts, yeah, why Odin? Why Odin? Odin? That makes sense, right? Why on the Odin, or why why
yes, I
why?
have a question. Why? Well, why not, Odin?
Exactly. I feel like
Why
that's the
not? Huh?
appropriate answer.
Why not have this podcast and start explaining things that we've spent a bunch of money in to try and help us? Why not bacon? Oh,
Well, that's
why
important.
not
We should.
bacon?
There should be bacon involved in everything. I should have like a bacon floating on the screen at times.
Yeah, you
Um,
should.
Yo, Devilius. Oh, and thank you, Devilius, for sending me that information. We did end up going over it on the podcast. Thank you very much. On the biggest day in Star Citizen history, the biggest hour in Star Citizen, it still hurts.
People have that kind of money sitting around to put on on a ship.
That is true, Viking.
Uh,
That is true. 6.6 million doll hairs in an hour.
mm-hmm. That was absolutely insane.
I hate. No, I'm not a hater. I don't
We
truly
went
hate.
I mean, we went over it in the podcast, right? And we, as a collective, as a community, need to hold CIG accountable and to a higher standard, and make sure that they are putting effort where it makes sense to us for us to have a better experience with this.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, can't say shit there.
mhm.
I mean, so yeah, if anybody else has any questions or any more insight, I mean, I think we'll have to do maybe a special episode this week just on the Odin. I know a lot of people have reacted to it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I love watching CIG stuff. I love supporting what they do, but it's only
Mhm.
been ships recently, and I just don't care. I'm not here to push your ship sales. It's kind of how I've decided it is. Because I'm not. I don't see any profit from it. The game doesn't get better from it, so to be honest, don't care. Was it nice to have something to watch from them once in a while? Yeah, but it's not worth it, because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I think one of the things that also drives me crazy, and I don't know if any of you have felt the same way, is you hear them talk about their ships. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna have this. It's gonna be able to do this, and then you're gonna be able to, and then you get in the game and you're like, what the are you talking about? Like, y'all are crap.
Yeah, like it's not like any of the ships are bringing about any sort of new feature. They're part of it, right? So, again, ironclad hype. Everybody was hyped to get the ironclad, but it's broken.
So, Das, would you be open to concept tech sales like AI and NPCs? Like, you mean like for real doll hairs, like IRL? No, because that should be base game features. Why would you, that's pay to win? Because if somebody can drop 10 grand and have 100 AI army working for them, then that's a big problem for the game in its future. If you end up
You know,
essentially forced to have to buy AI to have a leg up on anyone, like that's crazy. I don't
they
think you
kind
should.
of. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Uh,
I think maybe what you're referring to is the AI blades that we're supposed to get that can control turrets and stuff like that. And I like that idea in the game. I think it's necessary, especially since it's going to be very difficult for us. And we were talking about this briefly earlier, to have a fully manned Idris, a fully crewed Javelin, a fully crewed Kraken, a fully crewed Odin. So I think
mm-hmm.
the AI is going to be necessary, but I really don't think you should tie that to anything real money.
No, not at all. And Das kind of pushed on a subject that I would like to talk about at some point is AI and NPCs and how, again, and I've said this in past podcasts, how I feel the universe or the verse in Star Citizen feels empty.
Mm-hmm.
And most of your NPC interactions are just a voice comm and somebody on a screen. And most of the time, they're just annoying. And you don't there's no sort of emotional connection of building a like camaraderie, or you're working towards something, you're trying to help someone out, that sort of thing. It's just it feels dead, and the only thing that makes it feel alive is playing with friends, or you know interacting with other players within the game.
Yeah. But Das, I think I know where you're going with this. And correct me if I'm wrong. But are you saying essentially that to help push the development of the game, they should be selling tech so that they can fund it? Or are you saying that okay, so the reason why you don't want to do that is because, well, A, you're going to create this huge imbalance within the game. You'll have people who are going to have just, they're going to be miles ahead of somebody with a base game package. And the problem with that is it's going to affect the economy at some point hard.
Just also, if somebody's listening, make sure to say what they were saying too.
Yeah, and then the other reason is because DAS technically they've already made the money for that. And here's why I say that is because in the stretch goals from the in the Kickstarter, AI Blades was a part of the stretch goals, and they claim to have made the money to already put that in. So for them to come back and be like, "Oh, we need more money to put this in the game," well, that would go against what they promised in the stretch goals. That becomes a legal issue, and since we know the rock stars at CIG are the legal department, that's probably a big no no from them. Now, I also don't agree necessarily with the idea that like after making 150 million last year, they need us to open up our wallets again to fund something like that. And like Viking has said, it's that is much better off as a base game feature than anything else. The other problem is it opens up the door to so much criticism from the larger gaming community. So where's our game? Das, that is the question that's worth $1 billion apparently that we are trying to answer. And I mean, no,
Sorry.
but it's no, like it's a legit question. So where's our game? I mean, that's how I felt for years now. Where the fuck is this game? And
Hmm.
so again, it's a billion plus what they've received in private investment, and so we're probably close to the 1.1. And Squadron, so then they've been building three things, which of course it's important to mention and remind people that they were building Star Engine, which is going to be a huge part of the discussion next weekend.
Hmm.
By the way, we're gonna that's gonna they were also making Squadron 42, which was the supposed to be the flagship project, and I think the other project Star Citizen, which is also encompassing all that, originally was the black sheep we didn't really care about on the side, and they just kind of used that to showcase to people, look, we're actually working on stuff, this is what we have, give it a try out in the verse. But the verse became so popular that they kind of at some point had to pivot and be like, oh shit, okay, we need to make that an actual livable experience because that's what's actually making us our money, not this promise of the single player game that people can't tangibly feel, look at, see what's going on, because they even admitted in this Variety article that they're, very tight lipped around that. And that's fine. It's normal. Um, but yeah, I'm sure they'll get there eventually, Devil. They will eventually release a $50,000 ship. I mean, again, I go back to what I said earlier. We are such. We are. No, sorry, let me start that over. We are responsible for where CIG is right now in terms of us, the community, and the amount of money
Mm.
we've put into it to support them. You know, but it is our fault that the game sucks. It is 100% our fault because we reward bad behavior, we reward poor performance. And as long as we continue to reward that with them making 6.6 million in an hour selling Odins, then yeah, I think They'll keep funding things like the Orison Break Room, the Margarita machines, the
Fine.
life size models that are something that a successful company should reward themselves with for releasing a good game. I have no problem with Bethesda having a giant Dragonborn in their lobby. I have no problem with Bungie having a huge lifelike Master Chief, because those games were fat successes, and they earned every dollar they made off those games by making a good game and something that made people, you know, why do we love video games? Escapism. Why do we love entertainment? Escapism. So you provide us something that properly lets us escape and forget our shitty lives for a minute. You get a thumbs up and a pat on the back and some money. You don't, I don't think you should get any of that. Are we supporting them or trying to have fun with what we got? It's a little bit of both. We've been supporting them through the money that they've raised through us. And we're trying to make the best of what we have with what we got, because we don't have anything better. And we love this game and the dream it provides because there's nothing else like it. But I've been wanting to touch on this in streams recently. Next year for space games is going to be killer. So many space games coming out next year. Whether they be FPS, RTS, sim, arcade, story-driven, sandbox. There's so many cool looking space games that are flagged to come out next year. Some of them are flagged early access, so be careful. And others are supposed to come out as fully fledged projects. I am, even someone like what's his name? Level Cap Gaming is making his own space game, which is an RTS, but it looks really cool. And just be aware that this is not going to remain the only ambitious space game forever. Other people will catch up. And again, I want to mention how lucky Star Citizen is that Starfield tanked and sucked. If that game had been better and had taken off, actually would have been better for Star Citizen, because they would have had to, get their ass in gear. But anyways.
I mean, actually have competition and...
Yeah. I just want to know, how is someone going to pull out one of these giant ships out and store them? Well, Bert, it'll probably get destroyed on the pad, which the explosion will be so big that it potentially could kill everybody within a mile. And then, it'll probably get destroyed when you claim it. Oh, well, no, because you'll have to dock it, and the docking will be broken. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, they won't be able to refuel it, so they'll have this $5,000 JPEG again.
It won't fit on the Pro Pad, so you can't refuel or re-arm that way.
Yep. You can't go hit a pad with it, so he's got this big paperweight. I want to say paperweight, but it's really not a paperweight. You just got this big digital asset that you'll never own. That
someone sent me something while I was streaming. Okay, yeah. So, Quiz sent this to me earlier to take a look at. I was waiting for us to be kind of on the topic to look at it. But regarding the Odin, he sends me this article. Where does it take me? Twitter. Ew. Okay.
what?
Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast. Where's the post? So, 4 Odins in 1 org. Soul Provision just acquired our 4th Odin, and we plan to snag a 5th. 1 for each system on 1.0 launches. Happy for the Soul Provision org, but not surprised on the exclusivity of this ship. There'll be hundreds in a single shard. Yeah. First of all, I think this game is catered to and listens to the orgs. And that's something that I've been kind of thinking more and more recently. I used to think they really just listen to the whales, but they don't. So I think it's probably more of the orgs and maybe content creators. I don't know. That's just an assumption. Don't quote me on that at all. But I do see an org having 4 Odins or 5 Odins, 1 for each system. I do see that potentially being a small problem.
Well, that leads into the pay to win aspect.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
no,
kind of concerned about with that thing. Like,
it's totally pay to win at that point.
if they can if they can crew all of those, which is insane to think about, and run coordinated, there's no stopping them.
Yeah, yeah. Orgs with thousands of players around you know, having an Odin, two javelins, 10 krakens, and 25
Hmm.
polari, whatever, running around. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
That's
that
going
is a
to be
big
a
ship
problem.
with a absolute f ton of armament, and not just like they're all big guns on that thing. And then it's got a laser beam, and then it has crazy torpedoes. Like man, that thing is sure. I get it. It's a battleship, but man, that is absolutely insane.
You know what? I was actually kind of disappointed it didn't have more turrets because it's just two big three cannon turrets on one on top, one on the bottom. That just looks weird. And if you look at the design, actually, that top turret is immediately bothered by whatever stupid fin they have in front of it. Which there's going to be some change to the design probably. I
Well, and
like.
that's because it's got that giant laser out front, which they couldn't even give a size for because it's 12 individual beams that go into one beam, and then like look, they have to give it some wake points, right? So you can take this thing on, but it has cannons and turrets everywhere, and PDC. It has banks of PDCs, rocket pods, and PDCs themselves. Like it is. You're gonna have to, as another group, systematically take it out. So it's meant for those big battles, but
I
I
think
mean,
it's going to be meant
that's
for space station assaults, org to org space station assaults, or something like that.
I just don't see it feasible with the technology that we have. Like, sure, there's supposed to be another iteration of server meshing, but is any server going to be able to handle that type of battle?
Not right now.
Yeah.
So there then, and this is going to be a part of next week's discussion, is they're going to heavily rely on dynamic server meshing to fix the problems that their engine and the servers can't solve. Which is because this engine was never made for so many people, and because the servers can't handle that much data, persistence, all everything that's being communicated. Dynamic server meshing is going to have to come in, and what I see it becoming is essentially there will be a server spool up and create itself around these ships. It's just going to be this mobile server going around the verse where it's just
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I get frustrated with, and I wonder how CIG's what CIG's logic is with this is, well, we want to have this cool thing. Can we do it? Maybe down the line. Fuck it. Let's design it, sell it to them now, and then we'll figure it out later. I don't
Maybe they'll
think
instance it.
that would.
Uh,
You could just spawn it. It won't move. It'll just sit there. It's just its own instance thing.
it's its own instance for your org to run around on. Oh no.
God. And yes, it will absolutely cost a small fortune to run that. But orgs that big will have the money. Don't worry.
If you can
Absolutely
crew it,
will.
you've got the money.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that was depressing.
I don't know. It's been a fun podcast, man. We're just going
Oh,
over
it's
all the
always
things.
fun.
Yeah.
I love having
Yeah.
these discussions with all of you, and I really appreciate you showing up and making the time to be here. It
Hmm.
really does mean a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really like these discussions. And again, just want to remind everybody, vote with your wallet. If you don't like something, what speaks the most is giving money. Because they won't listen to us on Spectrum. They won't listen to us making videos on YouTube. But they'll start paying more attention if they see less cash coming in. Because they've got people to pay and, they've got costs to cover. And I do honestly believe they want to give us a game, but they are not going about it in a way that I feel is something we should support. So, play if you want to, but again, not playing is also a way of showing them that you're not interested in what's happening right now. I think the only reason why they opened up the free fly is because enough of us stopped playing for them to be like, it's probably safe to have more people come back in.
Mm-hmm.
because there really wasn't anything done to be fixed, through the hotfix um, or the server maintenance. Again, I think we should be having server maintenance every week or two. That would make sense, and I think that would make us all a lot happier. They had started doing that for a while, and then they completely stopped. And again, it's
Yeah.
this inconsistency in managerial decisions that they make. They don't stick with it. And you shouldn't stick with something that's not working, but I think server maintenance is definitely something that works. So
I can always it. I always see an improvement fresh from a server maintenance. Like
hell yeah.
it just performs way better. And in every MMO, they do server maintenance on a routine basis. So
Why do people release games or major patches on Tuesday? Because World
exactly.
of Warcraft is doing maintenance every Tuesday. And so you get all those players that have nothing else to do, and they might jump in your game. That is legit. That is a thing. You can look it up.
I
Um,
mean, yeah.
I mean, when I think it was, what's the max concurrency they had on World of Warcraft was 10 plus million people.
It's crazy. It's just
Yeah.
nuts.
And then
I
all of a
think we've
sudden,
all played it at some point.
Steam does theirs on Tuesday too. Nice. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Well, again, thank you all for the support. Thank you all for being here. For you on YouTube, if you liked this, give me a like. Just hit that sub button. Leave a
It's
comment.
free to do.
Insult me if you would like. I will take it.
It's easy and free to do. Insult the man in the comments below. Okay, push him up in the algorithm if you want to support him. All right, come on now, get over there.
I don't care if it's hateful comments. I'll take it all. I got thick skin. We're good. But no, I'm very curious to hear what other people's thoughts are on this. Maybe you have an idea or something that we overlooked. Uh, how'd you know, Stava? But the I think it's important that within the community we're engaging with each other. And me personally, I've made an effort to be engaging on other content creators' content more often, and it's created some interesting back and forth. I think it was a Space Tomato video. I was commenting, and me and this other guy are going back and like, remember the days when you used to like, he was like, oh yeah, I did a quantum jump through a planet today, and I was like, remember the days when you used to quantum and smack into the planet? And I was like, see, we have progress, and it's like, you get these funny conversations, and it does help, and I try to support every single Star Citizen content creator, whether I like what they have to say or not, because again, I believe in hopefully one day having
It's
a real game.
it's important to listen to other perspectives and not be so entrenched in your own and be open to other opinions. Um,
Absolutely.
like you can be set in your convictions, that's cool, but it's good to listen to other opinions because my opinion of things is always evolving and changing based off of my experience. And hearing somebody else's experience too can help, either change someone's mind on something or, help them along in their path. So
Just adds
it
perspective too.
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes
So
you look at things one way because of your life experience and what you've seen leading up to that decision, and then others have
mhm.
followed a different path, and it doesn't make their view less valid. But I think some opinions are just hateful, and you shouldn't listen to them. But you can't just label something hateful because you don't like it. Remember that. Super important. So, all right, ladies and gents.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to the next one. And you take care, sir.
Thank you too.